producer's just going to have a quick word in my ear. So, okay, so just for reference. Okay, so sorry for reference, for those of you who tuned in, I haven't got an imaginary friend in my head. I've got a producer talking into my ear telling me what's going on. So I'm not sure what the time is right now, but there's going to be an assessment of the course at 2 p.m. So in the next 20 minutes or so, there's going to be an assessment at 2 p.m. and then it will be either the Mini GP 50s or the Mini GP 70s going out next. So assessment at 2 p.m. that is the latest news from Race Control. So an assessment in the not too distant future, and we'll give you more information as and when we can bring it to you. So thank you for bearing with us. Wet conditions prevailing here at Whilton Mill, round 6 of the 2019 Cool FAB-Racing British Mini Bike Championships. And as we continue with the broadcast here in Daventry, we mentioned the Pit by 140 Moto teams. Their second race was certainly an exciting one. Even more exciting, the Junior LC40 Elite. Another cracking battle there, Liam.
Absolutely indeed. Maybe not for the win, because Johnny Garness cleared off into the distance once again. He was picking up his 14th race win of the season as the rest of the riders were battling out for the podium position. So Mason Foster just holding off the number 72 of Samuel Munson. So the Munson burner definitely putting a bit of a fire underneath Mason Foster there. So sorry about the puns, but yeah, great battle there for third and second. And of course they were joined by Ronnie Harris for most of the race on the number 66 machine. So those three were giving us a lot of great battling, just like they did yesterday with the number 2 of Josh Bannister, who claimed podium position. Unfortunately, Josh Bannister isn't racing here this weekend. He's probably looking at this guy and thinking, please keep raining, because his championship in the Mini GP 50s is under threat, because he unfortunately broke his elbow last night in a bit of an accident after all the racing was done. But yeah, great battle there from all the riders, and it was just pass after repass. So if you haven't seen it, make sure you check it out on all of our social medias. Also watch it back again on Motorsport TV. If it's an audio you're wanting to look for, then you can catch it all again on Motorsport Radio. Our website has got playbacks of all of the coverage here as well, and Cool FAB-Racing website. So there's a lot of great action here at Cool FAB-Racing, as you said, Dan, earlier on, and the LC40 Elite. When you've got a battle on track, usually it's between Johnny Garness and Mason Foster. So far this weekend, no one can put a glove on Johnny Garness at the moment.
Absolutely, he was just a class of the field over the course of that race. And will he do it in the third encounter? Only time will tell. That will be much later on this afternoon. That was followed by the Senior Mini Motos, and in and itself, that Bernie Hook and Richard Holmes-Williams battle was another great challenge for the pair of them. They rode so well right until the very end for Richard Holmes-Williams.
It did indeed. The two were battling on track yesterday, and they continued that over to the racing action today. So race number 2 of the Senior Mini Motos, Bernie Hook on the Zero bike, Richard Holmes-Williams on the 126. Contrasting styles. Bernie Hook is sort of a normal height, while Richard Holmes-Williams just towers over the top of absolutely everyone. So the riders on track had different sections. For example, Bernie Hook was very good, the tight and twisty stuff, while Richard Holmes-Williams was very quick through the sort of faster and flowing stuff. And it just gave us a lot of great action until a couple laps from the end, when Richard Holmes-Williams was pushed hard by Bernie Hook and he slipped off the bike at the penultimate corner.
Well, that was a great race for the Sydney Mini Motos. Thank you for joining us. If you've just joined us, this is live coverage of round 6 of the 2019 Cool FAB-Racing British Mini Bike Championships. You haven't missed anything after lunch. We had a lunch break after a red flag for the second AC40 Rookies race of the weekend. It was very wet. It got a sprinkle of rain before the lunch break. We decided to go for an early lunch in order to try and avoid the weather, and instead we seem to have caught the brunt of it, to be honest. It is rather wet out there at the moment. The teams in race control are currently deciding. We're having an assessment of the circuit conditions at 2 p.m. due to the weather being so heavy. There was standing water in a couple of the runoff areas and a couple of the apexes and stuff like that, so it was a bit tricky to go raiding. They decided quite sensibly that it was too difficult to go racing, so in the end we couldn't go racing, so we're on a red flag delay effectively at the moment, so you've not missed any action if you're tuning in after lunch. Hope you had a good time, and we are live on the Cool FAB-Racing websites, on Motorsport Radio and on Motorsport TV. Thank you for joining us. My name's Dan Marr, alongside me is Liam Hodgins, and well, we've been out and about the paddock over the last few days getting some great interviews. The Mini GP70s is going to be out shortly. We've got an interview with James Cook. We're just getting a quick word from race control, but let's go to a quick moment with James Cook. Here's an interview with him.
So I'm here with James Cook, who is racing in the Mini GP70s this season. James, we're here at Whilton Mill. It's a little bit windy today, but how are you feeling so far this weekend?
Well, I'm feeling alright because last year I did well in the 50 class, but you know, with last round I did kind of bad, so I'm trying to like make it up. So yeah, that's all I'm hoping for, is just like a win or top 3.
Now, there's a chance of possible changing conditions this weekend. Are you feeling confident in both the dry and the wet?
Yeah, I'm feeling quite like confident in the wet as well because I'm quite strong in the wet. So yeah, it's alright if it's in the wet.
How are track conditions out there this weekend? I've heard from a few other riders it's quite slippery. Are you finding the same issues?
Yeah, it's very slippery. This circuit is probably like the worst one, I think, because it's just, I don't know, because this is like one of the oldest tracks and it's just really slippery.
So, you're second in championship this year, 34 points behind Evan Belford. Just how do you feel like the season has gone from a personal point of view?
Well, from the first 4 rounds, it's been doing alright. But then when we went to lead, the first race I crashed, and then in the second race I crashed again. So yeah, I'm just trying to make up the points again, really.
Now, do you feel like you can get Evan Belford? Do you feel like you can climb back in the championship this weekend?
Yeah, I think I can, catch Evan up in the championship this weekend.
So, a couple more rounds left of the 2019 season. What are your plans for 2020?
I'm not really like, I'm not too I'm not too worried about the championship, if you know what I mean, because it's like the 6th round and it's not really the final one, so I'm just not really too worried about it, really.
Just all about going out there and having lots of fun?
Yeah, I think that's like the main reason, and winning and top 3 and maybe, so yeah.
Is there anyone that you'd like to say a big hello to this weekend? Any friends, family, sponsors?
Yeah, well, I think today my mum's coming and some of my family, and you got Danny Webb who's helping me out. So, yeah.
James, thanks very much and best of luck this weekend.
Thank you.
Cool FAB-Racing, the official BSB partner series, and on the road to MotoGP.
Round 6 of the 2019 Cool FAB-Racing British Mini Bike Championships, live from Whilton Mill, and we are back underway with the track action. Race 2 for the Mini GP70s is heading out onto circuit now, so just a bit of an administration to go through. There will be 2 sighting laps. There are 2 sighting laps and 11 racing laps. 11 racing laps. 2 sighting laps before we go, but on screen now, if you are viewing the visual radio stream on Motorsport Radio, on the Cool FAB-Racing website and on Motorsport TV, massive puddles all around the circuit. It's very tricky conditions and decisions which have been bravely made by race control, and a big thank you to the efforts that you've all gone to in the intervening red flag period. As the Mini GP70s race 2 are out on circuit. At the moment, this is their second sighting lap before the race starts, and Liam Hodgins has got the grid.
As the riders make the way round, fuel the way round this wet Whilton Mill circuit, it's going to be the number 52 championship leader, Evan Belford, leading from pole position ahead of local boy, picking up his first race win yesterday, the number 99 of Bailey, Stuart Campbell. Eddie O'Shea, who moved up to a clear second in the championship yesterday ahead of James Cook on a 1-1-4 green machine. is going to be starting from third spot ahead of the 43 of Ryan Hitchcock. Johnny Garness, the 57, will be in fifth on the grid ahead of the 48 Ollie Walker in sixth position. James Cook had a couple of bike issues yesterday and couldn't quite find the right setup. He's going off 7th on the grid ahead of today's race number 2. Kyle Payne on 25 will be next up in 8th ahead of the first of the Mellors, Owen Mellor on 130. 5th row of the grid in 9th spot. Thomas Gomez rounds out the top 10 of the starting grid ahead of the number 8 Alfie Davidson in 11th. Dylan Mellor, the second of the Mellors on bike 31, will be in 12th ahead of a returning Finn Smart on number 14 and 13th spot. Harrison Crosby on bike 69 will be in 14th, and then the 37 of Carter Brown rounding out the top 15. Next up is Joe Farragher on bike 47 and 16th spot ahead of the 178 of Saffron Watley in 17th. Harrison McKay in 18th, Rossi Brown on bike number 81 and 19th, and Jamie Woodcock rounds out the runners and riders ahead of race number 2, Mini GP70.
Well, in race 1 yesterday, Evan Belford, our pole sitter, set a new track record of a 50.314, 50 seconds .314. We certainly won't be getting to that pace in this session due to the very wet conditions, but race 2 for the Mini GP70s, the riders are getting onto the grid and ready to go racing now. It's extremely difficult, as you may be able to see. There's a few puddles in the middle of the racing line, which will make it more challenging for the riders when trying to go for the overtake. But we are getting ready for the race start. So it is an 11-lap race. They've had their 2 sighting laps, so 11 laps in prospect to heat up the action on track. Returning after the lunch break and after a delay for the weather, the sun is starting to bloom, so we could get a dry circuit come the end of the day, but we certainly won't for race 2 of the Mini GP70s. The riders are getting ready to go to the race start. The red lights are on now. They shine very brightly as they look up. The revs rise, clutches are at biting point, and the tension rises. The revs rise higher. The red lights are on now, and it's underway. Good start from the front row. Eddie O'Shea makes a good start as well. Bailey Stewart-Campbell jumps into the lead as they tiptoe their way around
James Cook is
turn
down.
1 and 2 for the first time. James Cook's gone down at turn number 2. He's up and okay, frustrated, and I think Finn Smart has stalled on his bike as well. He's sat up on the bike, so the bike's stuck just a little bit, but Bailey Stewart-Campbell made a great start heading through turns 1 and 2 for the first time, leading this race. It's a very, very gentle start to this race. Eddie O'Shea in second place. Third place is Ryan Hitchcock. Evan Belford, our pole sitter, struggling massively through here. 6th or 7th place through the second hairpin for the first time out of 11 and getting overtaken again, so not enjoying these conditions too much. Bailey Stewart-Campbell, though, seems to, for now, have the measure of Eddie O'Shea and the rest of the field.
I just want to draw your attention to 5th spot, the 37 of Carter Brown, 15th on the grid and 5th spot already. What a brilliant start by the number 37 on the blue bike, heading down towards the third to last corner, and it looked like there was a bit of a concertina effect in turn at number 2, which led to a couple of riders falling off, but they're tiptoeing around the circuit, heading down towards the final turn. Eddie O'Shea is trying to get the measure of Bailey Stewart-Campbell, completing lap number 1. Stewart-Campbell ahead of O'Shea. Ollie Walker, great start for the 48. Hitchcock in 4th. Thomas Gomez next up. Carter Brown in 6th, so not 5th, but 6th position for Carter Brown from 15th on the grid. Harrison Crosby next up ahead of Evan Belford, your championship leader, not pushing too deep. We've got a change of the lead. Eddie O'Shea up towards Christopher from Hitchcock, and Gomez tiptoeing around the track stand. They just don't want to slip off in these slippery and wet conditions.
Well, known as Slippery Mill, this circuit, the Whilton Mill circuit, in the wet due to the amount of rubber on the circuit. It's great and fast when you're riding round in the dry. When it gets to the wet conditions like this, it's so difficult. But going around the second left-hander on the infield of the circuit, they basically have to come to a stop at the apex. Such is the standing water on circuit, and Eddie O'Shea is by no means having a great start. Thomas Gomez getting past Ryan Hitchcock for 4th place, heading into the final few corners. And as they make their way to start another lap, this is the completion of lap number 2. Over the line they go now. 1 minute 13.7 is the fastest lap. That's about 20 seconds slower than they were going around yesterday. Eddie O'Shea, though, 0.7 of a second ahead of Bailey Stewart-Campbell in second. Ollie Walker 3rd. Thomas Gomez is up to 4th ahead of Ryan Hitchcock. Carter Brown continuing his great start in 6th place with a couple of seconds behind Ryan Hitchcock, and Harrison Crosby in 7th. Farragher, Belford Belford down to 9th, Mellor to 10th ahead of Rossi Brown, Owen Mellor in 12th ahead of Jamie Woodcock and James Cook, with Finn Smart in 15th. There is not in this race, we do not have Johnny Garnes, no Kyle Payne, no Alfie Davidson, no Saffron Watley and no Harrison McKee, so certainly not enjoying the conditions out there at the moment. They thought, well, what's better, saving my bike from when it's going to be a lot drier and a lot faster later, or going out there trying to be a bit of a hero and making a mistake and damaging the bike? Because James Cook suffered with that problem at the start of the race and came off at turn number 1, but the riders out there just surveying what's happening. Every other competitor in this championship will be looking at the circuit and thinking, where is the grip, where are the best lines to ride this circuit around? Because of many different riders, not big fans of this circuit in the wet. O'Shea, though, we say that, about to come over the line to start yet another lap. Second place is under attack, though. Stuart Campbell and Ollie Walker. Ollie Walker with the fastest lap, 1 minute 12.695. Really seems to have a side-by-side measure. Up riders right-hand side on Bailey Stuart Campbell and up into second place. So is feeling a lot more confident in these conditions than Bailey Stuart Campbell, yesterday's winner in the first Mini GP 70 race. So the number 48 taking to the circuit pretty well and the conditions pretty well at the moment. So O'Shea, Walker, Stuart Campbell's your top 3, with Gomez and Hitchcock in the mix as well.
Just to give you a representation of how much they're struggling out there in these wet conditions, they're 22.7 seconds slower than yesterday's new lap record. So the fastest lap of the race at 1:12.6. Ollie Walker's on the move. He's the one who set the fastest lap last time round. He's already won a race so far this year, the number 48, and he's going to be trying to close down the greenback, the 1:14 of Eddie O'Shea. Eddie O'Shea picked up a race win last time out at Leeds, race number 3, so his 4th win of this season, as they come to complete another lap. Lap number 4 will be in the history books as they come around the final corner. Cross start finish line to go. You can just hear the wheels spin up ever so slightly as they go through the puddles and on the white lines. It's 1.919 seconds a gap between first and second, so Eddie O'Shea finding the grip. He's now 1.9 seconds ahead, so it's about 1/10 of a second quicker than Ollie Walker last time round. 6.5 laps remaining. Thomas Gomez looking up the inside of Bailey Stuart Campbell into Christmas corner. Neil doing it just yet. Neil attacking the back of the rider just in front, feeling the way round the circuit. As the laps tick off, the riders will find out the best groove in the track, the best way to take the corner, and they'll be pushing it a little bit more and going a little bit quicker. But Ryan Hitchcock closing up to the back of Harrison Crosby. Harrison Crosby, great start, starting from 14th on the grid up to 6th positions, gained 8 places from the start. And Thomas Gomez round the double left-hander, sizing up Bailey Stuart Campbell, yesterday's race 1 winner. Down the back straight they go, not close enough yet, but we've noticed that Thomas Gomez on the 98 machine is very good on the brakes, right behind the number 99, so he can be lining it up as they power around the penultimate corner. I say power, I mean tiptoe through the puddles around the penultimate corner. Can't get close enough just yet as they tiptoe around. Crosby and Hitchcock could be closing down the battle for 3rd and 4th.
Massive puddles and spray being thrown up over the curb by Bailey Stuart Campbell. Thomas Gomez up the inside into turn number 2. Couldn't quite make the move stick. He's trying to find the grip. He is quicker. He's just being held up a bit by Bailey Stuart Campbell, steaming up the fairings on the front. They can hardly see where they're going in front of them, but Bailey Stuart Campbell not comfortable in these conditions at all. In fact, nearly over a second slower than Eddie O'Shea's last lap time. Ollie Walker still not closing up to Eddie O'Shea, but 3 wide heading into the second hairpin. Harrison Crosby makes 1 position into the second hairpin, passing Thomas Gomez. Thought, I've had enough of this, I'm not wasting any longer, and then size past the number 99 of Bailey Stuart Campbell right around the outside, cuts back to the inside of the first left-handed corner, makes the position. So now Harrison Crosby goes from 5th place into 3rd place, so got some real good pace aboard that machine. A 1:12.446. He was the fastest rider around the circuit last time out, nearly getting collected by Bailey Stuart Campbell at the chicane. Such is the pace that Bailey has got. Thomas Gomez attacking once again, but they've got to be careful heading out to the final corner and onto the curb. Normally they'd ride it quite heavily, but it's very slippery with all the puddles, and there's a big rooster tail coming off the back of the number 99 rider, who is now confirmed down to 4th place. 5 laps to go. We have 6 laps completed. Eddie O'Shea leads this race ahead of Ollie Walker. Harrison Crosby, fastest person, 1 minute 11.746, faster by nearly a second compared to everyone else. Bailey Stewart Campbell 4th ahead of Thomas Gomez. Carter Brown's ahead of Joe Farragher, with Hitchcock, Belford and Mellor. Dylan Mellier top 10. Cook, Owen Mellor, Finn Smart, Jamie Woodcock and Rossi Brown the top 15 as it stands currently. But O'Shea running away with it. Ollie Walker starting to be reeled in by Harrison Crosby.
Crosby, we've got to keep an eye out on the 69. The Mini GP50 Championship leader is hunting down first and second very quickly. Ollie Walker's just in front of him, so the number 69 powering down towards the third to last corner, and Ollie Walker could be coming under a lot of pressure from the 69 rider, the championship leader in the Mini GP50 class. This is the Mini GP50s. He's only about a second in front, so we're going to come across the line. Coming across the line, we will see Ollie Walker, see the gap between the two. Yes, 1 minute 11.2, so it closed the gap down by 1.3 seconds to Ollie Walker. So Ollie Walker's going to be coming under attack. Eddie O'Shea might be in a comfortable territory at the moment, even though he's a second slower than the number 69 rider, but with only 3.5 laps remaining, it might be a little bit too late for Harrison Crosby. Bailey Stewart Campbell's dropped back to 3.7 seconds behind Crosby, and Thomas Gomez in the 98 bike still sitting behind the number 99, but tipping it round the hairpin. They go through the puddles, over the curves. Don't want to run the white line just too much because it's very slippery out there. Through the double left-hander, you can see that gap is under 0.3 of a second as they come through the double left-hander now. Ollie Walker on the bike number 44. Can Crosby power out of that corner down towards the back end? We've got someone down. Is that Eddie O'Shea, or is that possibly someone else?
It is Eddie O'Shea.
Eddie O'Shea, the 104.
Down.
The race leader is out of the race. This means that Ollie Walker's in the lead of the race, and Crosby is in second. He's holding his helmet there, so hopefully he'll will be okay. And back to the leaders. Crosby's in the lead of the race, so that means a change of position. Oh, Eddie O'Shea went down. Dramatic stuff in the Mini GP70s. Crosby is your race leader ahead of Ollie Walker. Bailey Stewart Campbell moves up to third position, Dan.
Only 1.4 seconds a lap quicker than Ollie Walker on that last lap. Harrison Crosby with the new fastest lap. 3 laps to go, and my goodness me, how it all has changed. They're about to put a lap on James Cook, it seems, heading up towards the second hairpin. We didn't see what happened to Eddie O'Shea. It just happened to be on the ground, a green bike in the green grass, so wasn't quite sure. It's a shame he is out of this race. He was doing such a great job in the lead of this race. But they continue now. Crosby leads this race and is pulling away with 2.5 laps to go. Bailey Stewart Campbell promoted back into third place and is still a good 1.6 seconds ahead of Thomas Gomez in fourth. Thomas is going quicker. The number 98 rider catching relatively significantly, but you fear doesn't have the pace all the time in order to close up in any real fashion. Joe Farragher
someone else is off.
Someone else has gone down, and we're not sure who that was. There's a yellow flag, and it looks like, well, in fact, I'm not sure which rider that is.
That's Thomas Gomez.
That is, it's Thomas Gomez. The number 98 rider slid out onto the back straight, must have lost the front going through. He's up and standing, running back over to the bike, desperate to get back on. I'm not going to call any more names here because I'm seeing being dead, dropping like skittles thanks to my efforts. There's another bike down there which was pulled off earlier on in this race as well, so there's a few riders suffering some attrition. Harrison Crosby leads this race. Ollie Walker 1.3 seconds behind now with 2 laps to go. Bailey Stewart Campbell up to third, which means Joe Farragher will be up to fourth, and as you mentioned already, it's Carter Brown will be up to 5th place. What a fantastic race for Carter, who started with 15th place on the grid, made some real progress, especially that Constantina at the start of the race, smartly making a few moves, carrying on and scoring some great points, because there are at the moment only 13 or 14 circulating around there, so even if you do trundle around doing 2-minute laps, you're still going to score points, so it doesn't really matter by this point. Harrison Crosby's not worrying about that too much though. He's got a lap and a quarter to go, tiptoeing his way once again through the horseshoe. 2 right-handers, has a quick look over his right shoulder, trying to see whether anyone is behind him. Ollie Walker is behind him, but he's not close enough to worry about. Over the white lines, a bit of a rooster tail. He sees the last lap board and probably think, I can start to relax just a little. I've got one more tour of the mile-long circuit in order to win this race. Ollie Walker's starting to close in a little. He was about half a hundredth of a second quicker on that last lap. Not enough to close in, but Bailey Stewart Campbell, 1 minute 15.0. The leaders doing 1 minute 11. So they are just so much faster. Eddie O'Shea is, I believe, still circulating. So with half a lap to go, Harrison Crosby, the number 69, is in the lead of this race.
Only half a lap remaining. Harrison Crosby from 14th on the grid leads this race, but can't relax just yet because Ollie Walker is just nibbling away at the lead. Before the end of the race, just going to mention Evan Belford. This is important for his championship. He's 1 place ahead of James Cook, and Eddie O'Shea's out of the race, so he will be extending the championship lead over those two in race number 2 here at Whilton Mill for the Mini GP70s. But 2 more corners to go. The number 69 from 14th on the grid has dropped Ollie Walker like a stone through the final turn. Splashing through the puddles comes Harrison Crosby, takes the checkered flag. Race number 2, Mini GP70s. Ollie Walker in second position on bike number 48. Bailey Stewart Campbell has dropped beyond 10 seconds further behind, but you can see the water for the visual viewers of spraying off the visor as Harrison Crosby flicked his visor up, so you can definitely tell how much water was falling on the visor throughout that entire race. Lots of respect there between the first two there. Bit of a handshake from Crosby and Walker. Johnny Garness was out of the race, but Bailey Stewart Campbell was in third spot, Joe Farragher in fourth, and Carter Brown, who started 15th, an epic first lap to get up to 6th, should be coming across the line in 5th any second now. But our race leader Harrison Crosby picks up a fantastic race win.
What a great win for Harrison Crosby. Fought through this 11-lap race. Arbitration, that last lap was his fastest lap, but 1 minute 10.561. A big thumbs up for the cameras. A handshake with Ollie Walker in second place. Bailey Stewart Campbell was third, 21.954 seconds behind. That's how big their gap was. The last lap for Bailey, 1 minute 19.420. So not having a good time in the conditions at all. He was just 3.3 seconds ahead of Joe Farragher. A great 5th place for Carter Brown ahead of Evan Belford. Dylan Mellor was in 7th place. Thomas Gomez 1 lap down, but is in 8th ahead of James Cook. Owen Mellor finishes 10th. Jamie Woodcock was still to get around the circuit. He's only completed 8 laps, due to complete 9, and does take the checker flag, so 2 laps down, but in 11th place. 12th place for Eddie O'Shea, who was unfortunately out of that race about halfway through after leading so well for so long. Ryan Hitchcock was 13th ahead of Finn Smart and Rossi Bannon. That's your 15 runners and riders in that race, including those who didn't complete that many laps. We had no Johnny Garness, no Kyle Payne, no Alfie Davidson, no Saffron Watley, and no Harrison McKee after that race. But the riders heading back to the paddock for a well-deserved sit-down and a glass of cool milk after that one. Race 2 for the Mini GP70s has just finished here at Whilton Mill. The AC40 Pros will be next, so that should be race 3 for the AC40 Pros in just a few moments' time. You're listening to live coverage of round 6 of the 2019 Cool FAB-Racing British Minibike Championships. We are the official partner series to the Bennett's British Superbike Championship. We're on the road to MotoGP, and you can tune in live on the Motorsport Radio website, on Cool FAB-Racing, and on Motorsport TV. Thank you very much for joining us. It's been great to have you along here for the ride this weekend, including with a few delays to the running order thanks to the Great British weather intervening. But race 2s are over for now. The AC40 rookies, I'm sure, will be coming out later on this afternoon. But we head to the third and final set of races for this weekend, starting with the AC40 Pros, which will be heading out to circuit in just a few moments' time here at Whilton Mill. And we'll get clarification as to what will happen with the AC40 Rookies Race 2. We will try and get some more information on that, so we'll bring you that as soon as we can. So thank you for bearing with us. And I keep saying it, but it is so important to say a big thank you to all of the marshals, all of the medics, and all of race control for that hard efforts over the courses today, especially with the rain and the delays and the puddles and everything going wrong here this weekend with the weather. It's been great to see their efforts, and they work tirelessly to ensure that we can go motor racing. Without them, we simply couldn't go racing. So AC40 Pro bikes head out onto circuit. They're going to get 9 racing laps and 2 sighting laps. So 2 sighting laps to check out the conditions, see how it feels, get that understanding of the action. But Liam, this is going to be a real tricky challenge for these smaller riders on these smaller bikes in these quite big puddles.
Well, indeed. I mean, little wheels, big puddles, as you just mentioned there, Dan. So you could see that they might struggle to get through these puddles. I can imagine they'll try and avoid everything. So giving them 2 sighting laps is a good idea to assess the track conditions, see where the puddles are. We know there's quite a big puddle at the exit of one of the corners, but thankfully it's off the racing line. But Mason Foster, in earlier on's race, picked up his 14th race win of the season. These tricky conditions actually could give a chance of someone else that hasn't won a race so far this season the opportunity to build upon that and potentially take a race win. But then again, we just know how good Mason Foster is in the AC40 Pro class, so he could be targeting a 15th race win of the season and picking up another title on his way towards the 2019 AC40 Pro Championship. So we can see that the track is still wet out there, but it looks like, looking outside the commentary box and for the visual viewers the screen, that the rain might have dissipated. So fingers crossed it'll stay away for the rest of today, and maybe we might get some dry track action towards the end of the day as well. So the riders make the way around to complete the first sighting lap and starting their second one, and this is going to be how the grid might look for the start of the AC40 Pro race number 3. So your championship leader Mason Foster will be leading him away from pole position, the number 88, ahead of the 146 of Clayton Edmonds, who joins him on the front row of the grid. Second position in championship, the third position on the grid is Ethan Sparks on bike number 62, ahead of Samuel Munson on bike 72. Has had a very strong weekend so far this weekend at Whilton, Mill and Daventry. So 31, Henry McCartney is next up in 5th, ahead of the 76 of Charlie Huntingford. Blake Wilson is making his debut in the class this weekend, up from the AC40 rookies up to the AC40 Pros. The 108 will be in 7th, ahead of Finnan Wedity. The number 11 is just ahead of the 64 of Luke Schofield on the grid. Greg Marshall rounds out the top 10 on the grid on bike number 19, ahead of the 15. Holly Harris will be starting from 11th. Max Wedity in 10th spot on the 12th spot on the grid, bike number 10, ahead of the 99 Warwick Brady in 13th. And rounding out the runners and riders for the start of the AC40 Pro race number 3, here from a very wet and damp Whilton, Mill and Daventry, is going to be Jacob Stevenson.
Well, apparently it's not just thunder on track, but thunder in the air been reported, and more rain. According to our cameraman, they suspect more rain is on the way, and it's quite humid in here in the commentary box, so I wouldn't be surprised if we would see more wet weather in the not too distant future. Of course, any weather updates, we will give you the further information as and when anything affects us, but the riders not so bothered at the moment, as we have a quick view on race control and some of the family and friends and fans out on the balcony enjoying the racing action. Great to have everyone here. Of course, it's free to come and spectate at any cool FAB-Racing weekend, so if you happen to live near the Rower circuit in Cumbria for the 7th round, next round in a few weeks' time, Rower in Cumbria, please head over to the Cumbria Kart Circuit to come and join us at one of the most picturesque and exciting circuits on the calendar this season. But everyone else getting ready to start this race. Blooms of two-stroke smoke and oil and everything mixing in. A nice smell, a nice look, but it's going to be a bit choking on that grid as we prepare to go racing for the third and final time this weekend for the AC40 Pros. Who will it be off the start? Mason Foster, Clayton Edmonds, that's your front row. Mason Foster's won several times already this weekend. They prepare to look up to the start lights. It goes out now. It's a good start from the front row. Clayton Edmonds makes a very good start, but so does Mason Foster. Mason Foster within the mix, heading up towards the first few corners for the first time. It was a bit tight in the first race after the lunch break, the Mini GP 70s, and a few fallers, but no such dramas here. Everyone's managed to make it through cleanly on this first lap out of 9 for the AC40 Pros. Everyone making their way through. Mason Foster well within the pack as they side their way through and up towards the second hairpin for the first time. A big wiggle from the number 10 rider heading into the second hairpin. Bikes bouncing around and just making that slightly burbly noise as they slow down on the way to another corner. But through the first two left-handed corners, Mason Foster hasn't made a particular... Well, he made an initial good getaway, but he got trapped in with the rest of the pack, Liam. So it's the number 62 of Ethan Sparks, who's in the lead at the moment. Second place for Clayton Edmonds. Mason Foster isn't even third or fourth. Samuel Munson's up into third place at the moment. Great run through the back straight for a few riders into the chicane for the first time, Liam.
Blake Wilson's the one that's on the... Oh, we've got a rider down. It was at the number 10, just trying to go round the outside of Mason Foster.
Stamping up and down.
Slipped out. Yes, he's absolutely raging with what's just happened there. So we've got the rider down, and that might be the number 31 of Henry McCartney. Henry McCartney's looking up at the sky and going, why me? I don't deserve this to happen. So Henry McCartney, the number 31, shakes his head, but thankfully he's back up. He's okay, and he's back in the race. But it's Ethan Sparks, who's already won 2 races so far this season. When Mason Foster hasn't won, it's been Ethan Sparks, so he's leading the way ahead of the 146. Clayton Edmonds in second. Samuel Munson just behind Mason Foster in 4th position. And the number 11 there of one of the riders that have come from 8th on the grid, that is Finnan Werity in 5th spot. And Blake Wilson, who's making his debut this weekend in the AC40 Pros, is showing his class in the wet by charging through the field. He was making a move on some of the riders further back. He's just slipped off. As I talk about him, I was unfortunate there for Blake Wilson. Through the left hand, just slips off. He's back up. He's okay. So number 108 or number 8 on his bike just slipped off through the left-hander. That has been a problem corner in the wet conditions all this weekend, Dan.
Well, courtesy the commentator, well done there, Liam Hodgins. And mind you, I had my morning this morning with riders falling off, so I'll keep my mouth totally shut. But Ethan Sparks, number 62, leads this race. 1 minute 17.5 was the last lap time. Heading over the start line now, it's 1 minute 15.0. Clayton Edmonds in second, third for Foster, fourth for Munter with the fastest lap, 1 minute 14.489. That's Henry McCartney again with technical problems with the bike. There was some grass and stuff lodged into the bike when he got on the way the first time after the fall at the final 2 corners. He is standing up and he's all right. He's just waiting for the marshals to helpfully restart their bike. But the race leaders are going to make the best of it whilst they can. Into turn number 3, the Christmas corner. Down goes Greg Marshall. The number 19 loses the front end heading into Christmas corner. Back up is all right and onto the bike again. A small mistake, but unfortunate for him, who loses a few positions. He's gone into a good position so far. Still trying to restart the bike, but does now get back underway into this race. 6 laps to go after 2 laps have been completed, so I think this was shortened to an 8-lap race into the first of 2 left-handers in the battle. Samuel Munson doing pretty well. Warwick Brady also aboard the number 99 machine and is working well through the traffic. Got past Henry McCartney, the number 31, putting a lap on Henry. Unfortunately not having a great third race here this weekend, and it's been a challenging weekend for him all weekend and returning back to the paddock. So the number 31 off home for a probably put the heat on in the car on the way back. Ethan Sparks 9/10 of a second ahead of Clayton Edmonds, only 2/10 ahead himself of Samuel Munson, who is absolutely flying. Mason Foster's behind them with Finnan Werity. It's a 5-bike fight for the race lead. Sparks, Edmonds, Munson, Foster and Werity all making their way through Christmas corner, and then right to left, right again up towards the second hairpin. It's a really good overtaking opportunity. Samuel Munson's shown that he can do fantastically late overtakes, closing right up to the back of Clayton Edmonds. He's desperate for that second place on the rostrum. He's got the pace to get into the race lead, so he was a second quicker than Ethan Sparks on that last lap. Fantastically good stuff so far.
Munson had a bit of a tricky start to this race, but has managed to find his feet and like a duck to water is licking it round the Whilton Mill circuit here in Daventry, looking round the outside of Clayton Edmonds, not doing it just yet, nice and steady through the third to last corner into the penultimate corner. The right hander just have to sit up a little bit if you make a bit of a movement there, and there's a gap opening up between Clayton Edmonds and Ethan Sparks. It was 9/10 of a second last lap. We'll see how it is. As I say that, they come through the final corner and that's closed up a lot. 3/10 of a second has come down by 6/10 of a second, covering the top 2. Only 1.1 seconds covering the top 4 and 2 seconds covering the top 5 there. So we've got Mason Foster on the back of the top 3 with 3.5 laps remaining as they enter Christmas corner. But Samuel Munson is the one that's most likely looking to make a move. Will he do it into the right hander? Lay on the brakes, pushes himself up towards second, but in the switchback comes Clayton Edmonds powering down to the hairpin. What a move there by Clayton Edmonds and of course Samuel Munson before that. But this battle, they managed to close it up to the back of Ethan Sparks. The number 72 on the 146 has to slot back behind Clayton Edmonds for the moment. Mason Foster is just saying to himself, I'm just going to let you guys battle out ever so slightly for the moment, and we've got Finn and Whilton dropping off the back, but 4 riders, you can cover them with a glove at the moment, powering down the back straight. Here comes Mason Foster up the inside late in the brakes, just sizing up an opportunity on Samuel Munson. Samuel Munson going round the outside, up the inside into the penultimate corner of Clayton Edmonds. Saw Mason Foster coming down the side and went, you know what, I think I'll just take second.
So second place is a good place to be for Samuel Munson. He's got the pace, he's got the attacking knowledge. Over the line once again, 3 laps to go, lap 5 as it is right now. Mason Foster going for a move on Clayton Edmonds, couldn't make it work, but a new fastest lap on that last lap by Samuel Munson. 1 minute 13.630, gets a great ride out of turn number 2 up towards Christmas Corner. Not only is Munson attacking, Edmonds is defending on Mason Foster, so it's 62, 72, 146 and 88 the top 5. Finn Werrity's in 5th ahead of Charlie Huntingford. Warwick Brady's ahead of Max Werrity, Luke Schofield and Blake Wilson, with Marshall, Stevenson and McCartney carrying on the order. They make their way up towards number 3 Christmas Corner. They're fighting away. Max Werrity having a good race. Max has always gone pretty well in the wet, so Luke Schofield getting involved as well. Luke has been having a decent meeting this weekend as well, so the water certainly adding an extra element of excitement to this weekend's activities. But Sparks now with 2 1/4 laps to go, a dry line slowly starting to emerge, which Mason Foster's using to good effect. Moves into 3rd place around the outside of Clayton Edmonds through the chicane. Used a very savvy moment just to find that extra level of grip and catch up, but it's a 3-way fight for the race lead. Over the line, 2 laps to go now. Side by side for 2nd place. Mason Foster now pounces and uses this moment to get up into 2nd place. So the 88 absolutely flying. They're all going pretty quickly. He's into the slipstream of Ethan Sparks. Could he make a move into turn number 3, Christmas Corner? Has to bide his time. He's not quite close enough. And then Clayton Edmonds up the inside of Samuel Munson. So Munson's gone down from 2nd to 4th place, losing a little bit of confidence at that particular moment. Mason Foster's not concerning himself with that though. He's fighting for the race lead, side by side for 3rd place. Edmonds defends vigorously but fairly, heading into the final few corners. They are halfway around this lap, so a lap and a half to go. Mason Foster, the bright number 88 machine, right up the inside of Ethan Sparks at the second of the left-handers on the infield, goes for the race lead, and he does. He manages to make it through. He got the move, he got the grip, he has a slingshot of a run out of the final few corners, and now with a lap to go, Mason Foster, the number 88, is on course for a great fight-back victory in the wet here at Whilton Mill, round 6 of the championship.
I wouldn't be surprised if Mason Foster just sized up his opportunity to see,
we've got someone down.
Oh my goodness, we've got someone down. It's a 146 of Edmonds.
Edmonds.
Oh,
He's
that's
gone down.
such a shame. Out of 3rd position. He was looking so strong, and going into the final turn, he's up. The marshals are checking out if he's okay, and of course if the bike's okay. He looks like he wants to get back into the race. That's good to see. The 146 of Clayton Edmonds back up and back into the race. But Mason Foster still leading the way, pulled about a second in front of Ethan Sparks. Samuel Munson potentially going to take 2nd position. Down towards the hairpin they go. The downhill right-handers, very tricky under braking, but not doing it yet. Around the outside, he's done the switchback. He has done, powering out, but the 62 of Sparks not letting him past just at the moment. Into the double left they go. Mason Foster still leading the way, and the rain starts to fall. The rain is coming down. It's still drizzling at the moment, but hopefully it doesn't get any heavier. We can see at the commentary box window it's gone a little bit darker, and for visual viewers you might notice that as well. But 2 more corners to go for your championship leader, looking to pick up race number 15 of the season, and Samuel Munson is into 2nd ahead of Sparks. You can hear the crowd clapping. Across the start finish line comes Mason Foster to take race number 3 of the AC40 Pros. Samuel Munson picks up 2nd position on the last lap. Ethan Sparks rounds out the podium position, and Finn Werrity, great ride there from the number 11, coming from further down the grid in 8th up to 4th position, and Charlie Huntingford looking to hold off Warwick Brady for 5th, and he does.
Foster and Munson both congratulating each other, and Ethan Sparks, they were all mixed in, waving at each other, delighted with another fantastic race after 8 very close laps. Mason Foster took the win after battling hard with Samuel Munson in the later stages of this race. Sam Munson did actually get the fastest lap on that last lap, 1 minute 10.955, so was catching up, and given another lap or so he could have been right on the back, but You're right to mention the rain's coming down even heavier now, Liam. That added an extra element of difficulty into that last lap. But Mason Foster was your race winner, ahead of Samuel Munton and Ethan Sparks. That's your podium, with Finn Werrity and Charlie Huntingford rounding out the top 5. Warwick Brady and Blake Wilson were 6th and 7th, ahead of Luke Schofield, Max Werrity and Clayton Edmonds, who fell on the penultimate lap, got back onto his bike and did continue. Greg Marshall did finish in 11th place, and Jacob Stevenson just about to come over the line to complete his final lap, with Henry McCartney 13th, and unfortunately it was an unlucky 13th for him, coming into retirement after 2 tumbles in 2 laps. A big shame for the number 31 rider. We'll certainly see more of them all at the Vara circuit in Cumbria in a few weeks' time for round 7 of the 2019 Cool FAB-Racing British Mini Bike Championships. Thank you for joining us here at Whilton Mill, the 6th round of the series. That is the official partner series to the Bennett's British Superbike Championship. We're on the road to MotoGP, and the AC40 Pros, a great hotbed of talents to come in the years, learning some real racecraft, including racing in the rain, an ever difficult job to do. And as we get all excited at Whilton Mill, the Pit Bike 140 and Moto team riders, they will be heading out to circuit in just a few moments' time here at Whilton Mill, the 6th round of the championship. Thank you for joining us, whether you're tuned in on Motorsport Radio, on the Motorsport TV, or on the Cool FAB-Racing websites. Visual radio and full radio coverage online here for you. Some trains flying by in the background, but there won't be any trains in this Pit Bike 140 Moto team field. It'll be hard, fair racing all the way through this race. So 14 laps to go. I believe they will be given 2 sighting laps. We're not quite sure, so if they're not, to bear with us. We're not sure at the present moment. Jamie King, the number 76, eager to leave the assembly area ahead of this next race and their final race of the weekend for both these categories. 2 championships in 1 very highly contested race. They make their way onto circuit now, and Liam Hodgins has got the grid.
So it's your championship leader, Jamie King, who will be leading them away from what was 2nd position in qualifying, but from a lonely 2nd spot, which will be pole position on the grid after yesterday's race 1 winner and pole setter Brad Ray has got some testing duties for his Bennett's British Superbike Suzuki team at Mallory Park today. So that leaves Jamie King on the front row by himself, just ahead of the 100 of John Petit. Bernie Hook will be in 4th spot, 3rd on the grid on the 0, ahead of Rob Petit. Next up, 5th on the grid will be Callum Wybrow on bike number 67, ahead of the number 7, Ian Jackson. Next up will be Henry Majus on bike 55, and then it'll be Kevin Gritton on bike number 11 in 8th spot. Jack Andrews will be in 9th on the 114, ahead of the first of the moto teams, the championship leader Simon Klaus on the 133, so keep an eye out for him. Daniel Gilbert next up on the grid on bike number 9, ahead of Alistair Kinnaird, the other moto team rider who pushed your championship leader very hard in race number 2 earlier on today. Neil Kinnaird is next up on bike number 83, and then Vince Bailey on bike 369 will be in 14th, ahead of Ben O'Keefe. Sean Whittaker next up in 16th, then Harrison O'Keefe in 17th, Tony Campana on bike number 8, Greg Pym next up in 19th, ahead of Fraser Kinnaird on bike number 3 in 20th position. Mark Bradley on bike 905 will be next up, and then rounding out your runners and riders, there should be 22 on the grid. It will be Gary O'Keefe, the bike number 63, as the Pit Bike 140 and moto teams make their way round to the starting grid after their 2nd sighting lap.
Yep, just confirmation we've been given 2 sighting laps due
we've got
to the weather conditions, and we've got a rider going down at the turn number 5, coming through the S's section of the circuit out of Christmas Corner. We're not quite sure who that is. Could well be one of the 2 Petites. They were fighting over the course of the last 2 races, but not quite sure. The rider's up and trying to restart the bike. No injury, no damage. They're just trying to restart their bike amid a bit of pride, which has been badly hurt. But as they prepare for a race start, getting underway now, a little bit more dirt on their bikes than they were expecting. Well, that should clear within a few moments, which is always the trick with pushing a little bit too hard on any green flag lap. They're coming back into view, so then the number 8, which would make them the number 8 of Rob Petit. So starting in 5th place, fighting for 3rd and 2nd in the last 2 races here this weekend. Race 3 is about to get on the way. As mentioned, we should have 22 starters, although we did have a few not starting the second race, including Brad Ray. Brad was just one of, I think, 3 or 4 who didn't take to the start earlier on today. And I think it will be a challenge to see who is and isn't out there, because some riders will probably think, oh, it's a bit wet and a bit cold. I know some people really aren't fans. 2 riders on screen now, if you can't tune into our visual radio screen, probably speaking something along the lines of, okay, how did he fall off? Oh, he just put too much throttle on, and laughing to themselves, to be honest. But as everyone assembles and getting ready for the grid, some great shots. Jamie King once again looking behind him thinking, well, I've got all this space around me. I know I'm quick, but I'm not this quick. He's very, very surprised maybe to have about 2 or 3 different rows. We're missing the entire second row.
Yeah, it looks like the whole second row's completely gone.
Yeah, the second row just doesn't exist anymore, ladies and gentlemen. So we'll bring you all of that and more in the next 14 laps. The start line marshals just ensuring everyone who is there is meant to be where they are meant to be and not when they're not meant to be. Green flag from the back then. They're happy to get this race underway. 14 laps in prospect. The 3rd and final race of the weekend for the Pit Bike 140 and Moto teams, as we've got the number 5 rider pulling off to the side, the Moto team rider pulling off to the side. We're about to get underway. We go racing now. Good start from Jamie King. Everyone else making their ways through turn number 1 and 2, left and right for the first time out of 14, really tiptoe splashing their way through the puddles. The vanes eased off again, so the circuit should continue to be drying. Confirmation, the number 5 rider of Alistair Kinnaird didn't get underway in this start, pulled off the grid, probably due to a stalled engine, and everyone else making their way through. Jamie King is leading this race. Second place is one of the Petits. We think that is John Petit, who had that moment on the exit of turn number 5. That's not really confidence inspiring starting off a race, is it, when you fall off on the second green flag lap? But he is chasing hard down on the race leader, the number 76, really with a bit between his teeth to show everyone else who's boss. He's got the confidence in the wet to try and make the moves.
Maybe him pushing on the sighting lap was his way of finding the limit, and now that he knows where it is, can just rein it back a little bit. And Jamie King might not have pushed as hard, so he doesn't quite know where the limit is around this damp and wet Whilton Mill racetrack. And saying that, it looked like Rob Petit was about to lose it again on the entrance into the final turn. Across the start finish line to complete lap number 1, it's Jamie King, the 76, ahead of the 8, Rob Petit. Henry Meduse, the number 55, fantastic start there by Henry, is into 3rd spot on bike 5-5. Ian Jackson, bike number 7 and 4th, ahead of Callum Wybrow on bike number 67. The first of the moto teams, Simon Clowes in 6th position ahead of Sean Whittaker. Daniel Gilbert next up on the last of the Pit Bike 140 bikes at the moment. Neil Kinnaird is in front of Vince Bailey for 9th and 10th. Tony Campana next up on the other moto team bike. Greg Pimmin 12th. And only 13 riders in this race so far. Alistair Kinnaird, who pulled off at the start, is looking to try and get back into the race. So he's on the number 5 bike, but 12 running at the moment. Rob Petit sizing up Jamie King towards the end of this lap, down the back straight towards the 3rd to last corner. Can Jamie King hold off Rob Petit? Rob Petit's been very quick on the opening lap. The few laps of each race. Simon Clowes, the 133 Moto Team rider, leading this race, leading the championship. We can hear some scraping. Who's that? Jamie King's down.
Jamie King,
Jamie
yes,
King is down at the final corner. Wow, that is big news there from this race and the championship leader. He's back up, he's okay. I could hear the scraping in my headphones, so thankfully he's okay. He's back into the race, but he's dropped him to the back of the field.
Well, he's dropped back to 7th place as it stands, not quite at the back of the field, but lost a good 10 seconds. If anything, that'll rev him up even more to try and make some progress in this race. A big moment for Jay King. Rarely did he make mistakes, but in these kind of conditions, anyone's fair games. Immediately making the position on Sean Whittaker in 6th place, so already back up into 6th place with some good shots on his GoPros. He likes to post videos of his racing on social media, so we'll certainly have a highlight of that and a comment or two to go with that. But Rob Petit then 3.5 seconds ahead of Henry Meduse, not being challenged out front. Ian Jackson in 3rd place ahead of Callum Wybrow. Simon Clowes leading Moto Team, as you mentioned, in 5th place overall. A good result, but he's now coming under attack from the number 76 rider of Jamie King. But Rob Petit into the final corner where Jamie King slid off just a lap ago. Doesn't make such a mistake, rides a little bit of the red or the white and the yellow lines. It's very slippery on that. You don't want to be putting your wheels into that too much more than you can hope, but gap remains static. 3.5 seconds between Rob Petit and Henry Meduse. Ian Jackson not on the pace, same pace as Callum Wybrow or Jamie King. Jamie King has got past Simon Clowes, so Jamie King 1 minute 6.7, not quite the same lap time as everyone else in front of him, but he is still pushing extremely hard as Callum Wybrow, the number 67, comes under attack from the 76.
If there's any positive Jamie King can take from
And
that
there's a yellow
incident,
flag, there's a yellow flag at turn 1.
Not sure who that
must
could
have gone
be.
down, but we're not sure who that is.
We'll keep an eye on
Turning
it.
his car into corner number 2. There's someone off at turn 2.
Oh, that
They're
bike
up
is
and
a
okay,
mess.
but the bike must have slipped out the front. The bike looks to be in a bit of a mistake. That's the number 9, so that's Daniel Gilbert, whose bike is off into the barrier. He's trying to restart it. I think he's lifted his lid up a little just to see a bit better, getting a load of mist in there. So yellow flag to turn 1 and 2. That does take out quite a good overtaking opportunity, but that helps a few of the riders in this race to make a few extra positions. Property not bothered by such. On to lap 5 already. 8 laps to go, and he's leading by 3.9 seconds.
I was out on track watching on Friday and noticed that the pit bike 140 seemed to be struggling in the wet conditions. Not too sure if the tyres aren't quite up to scratch around a slippery Whilton Mill circuit. I was about to say the only positive for maybe Jamie King sliding off is he now knows where the limit is of the circuit, just like Rob Petit found out on the green flag lap. So we can see now if Jamie King makes some moves up the order. He's a couple of seconds slower than Rob Petit at the moment, which is completely understandable. But looking further back, we've got someone pulled off the edge of the circuit. It's another pit bike, 140 bike. Not sure
Number
that's
7.
number Ian Jackson. Ian Jackson, who was set in second position, he's crashed out at the chicane up at Christmas Corner, top end of the circuit, valiantly trying to get that bike started once again, pumping the starter motor, and he's got it started, so he's back into the race. A lot of grass, Neil's slipping off in the grass once again, but he makes his way back onto track now, a lot further down the field than what he would have hoped. But further down the field, there's a great scrap going on between the number 83 of Neil Kinnaird, Vince Bailey, Greg Pym, and the 56 of Pym looking up the side of Bailey into the hairpin. Very close for comfort between those two there. Tony Campana on the number 8 just behind this group here, so 5 battling, 4 Moto Team bikes, 1 pit bike 140. So the Sean Whittaker bike back up in the race, and he's the number 7 of Ian Jackson is back into the race.
And well, the battle for the lead in Moto Team isn't really on. It's a good, according to our timing screens, it's Simon Clowes who's a position and about 30 seconds ahead of Neil Kinnaird in second. Vince Bailey's about a second behind them, and then you mentioned Greg Pym and Tony Campana, all fighting for those final few places on the rostrum. But 5 laps completed. We're on lap 7, or like lap 6 in a moment. There's a slippery flag down, surfaces flag down at turn 1, so there might be a little bit of oil or something down there just to mix in with all the water and everything, which makes it even more difficult as the race continues. Rob Petit not suffering through any of this, but the Moto Team battle absolutely fantastic. 3 wide heading into Christmas Corner, turn number 3. A few riders having to go deep just to find that extra grip. Vince Bailey working his way through, really having to push the bike, lean the bike to get a lot of water. And there's a bit of noise in the background, a few people cheering on, almost going into the side of each other. Is the number 369 and 56 of Greg Pym and Vince Bailey. They are fighting extremely hard, having fantastic racing in there, with Greg Pym and Neil Kinnaird in there as well. Jamie King, new fastest lap, 1 minute 3.605 into 4th place, only 9 seconds behind the race leaders, 2.3 seconds behind. But the number 08, the number 8 of Rob Petit, is your race leader, about halfway through this race, and is about to come and lap these Moto Team riders at the halfway stage in this race.
Got to look on Jamie King. Last lap, 2.5 seconds quicker than your race leader. There's only 5 laps remaining now. If that pace continues, he might be able to catch Rob Petit at the very end of this race. So this could be coming up for a dramatic finish in the final couple of laps. But talking about drama, further back, the 83 of Neil Kinnaird is holding off a gaggle of hungry riders just behind him. Greg Pym, Neil Kinnaird involved in that, Vince Bailey as well, Tony Campana, who's making a debut this weekend in the Moto Teams, right on the back. So returning Tony Campana on number 8, late on the brakes into the hairpin. Now, as Dan mentioned last lap, you can hear cheering for this group. That's because of that section of the circuit, that's where all the Moto Team riders are all based. So they've got friends, family, and of course some fans out there cheering them on. But Rob Petit still leading the way for the moment. 6.6 seconds covers the top 4. Rob Petit down to Jamie King. Jamie King still lapping nearly 3 seconds a lap quicker than your race leader. Henry Majew still in second by 2 seconds further behind Rob Rob Petit. Callum Wybrow on the 67 bike is going to be coming under pressure from the number 76, your championship leader in the pit bike, 140 in the class. Rob Petit trying to tick off the laps, hopefully not going to come under too much pressure from Jamie King, he hopes, but come through the final corner they come, coming up towards the back markers of the fight between Kinnaird, Pym, Bailey and Campana. He might get stuck behind them for a little bit longer than what he would hope.
Well, it's not just that, but that concertina effect, as you mentioned, because of the pace deficit between Petit and King. It was a 1 minute 1, the fastest lap for Rob Petit, and a 1 minute 3.150 and 1 minute 3.299, so they're pretty close in pace. King up to third place, making his way through the other riders in this race. Rob Petit getting a big cheer from the pit. One of the riders go down. That's one of the Moto team riders. That's 369 of Vince Bailey. So unfortunately, Vince Bailey slides down onto the floor. He picks the bike up. The rider's okay. He's just trying to restart the machine, so he's going to lose out on that fantastic fourth place in class. Rob Petit also getting held up by a few other riders in this race. Jamie King's going to be looking at that and absolutely cheering because he's got the pace. He's closing up fantastically. And just a very quick confirmation, the AC40 rookie second race will be held after the Senior Mini Motos. So after the Senior Mini Motos race 3, which is after the Junior LC40 Elite, so about in 2 races time, it's going to be after that. So we'll be going on race 2, and then race 3 will still be as planned not too long later. So great news that we managed to fit in all 3 races for the AC40 rookies. We look forward to having them out on circuit in a short period of time. And Rob Petit is looking to go home in a short period of time because he's only 3 laps away from the checkered flag. 1 minute 5.2 is his last lap. 1 minute 3.4 was Jamie King. He's still catching up at a fair old rate of knots, and as the circuit starts to dry slightly, it's at that point now where the tyre marks on the surface aren't really drying it, but they're leaving wet patches there. They're shoveling it out the way ever so slightly, just enough in order to get that pace back as the leaders get quicker and quicker. But Rob Petit has got to push now because Jamie King, like the shark he is, Pit Bike Sonic, has got 2 laps in order to make the race win and make the race move. Henry Maduce isn't that much quicker, but Jamie King's catching him by over a second and a half a lap. He was only 1.6 seconds behind on that last lap. They both come over the line now. Henry Maduce is still second, Jamie King third, only 8 tenths behind that last lap. 1 minute 3.7, 1 minute 4.6 for Henry in second, and Rob Petit in the lead, the number 8, 1 minute 4.3 is still leading. So they are catching, but it's all relative. It's a real chess match as they've got to position themselves. It's like playing risk. You've got to make sure all your battalions and everyone is in the right place at the right time for that crucial move. A lap and a half to go, and it's becoming crunch time. You're going to have to roll those dices as Rob Petit is coming through the first and the second left-handed corners. There's not an awful long time in this race left to go, and he must be thinking, have I done enough to win this race?
The track is getting ever greasier as the puddles disperse and the track tries to dry out. A lap and a quarter to go for your race leader, number 8 of Rob Petit. Through the final corner he comes. He will be powering across the start finish line now to take the last lap flag, and further back Jamie King is putting a lot of pressure over Henry Maduce, who looks over his shoulder, the number 55, looking to see where the championship leader is. Rob Petit looks over his shoulder, sees that Jamie King has just set the new fastest lap of the race at 1 minute 2.829, but I think it's a little bit too late for Jamie King to mount a challenge on your race leader, but he can still grab second. Through the chicane he comes, powering down the hill for both of them. Henry Maduce looks over his shoulder, sees Jamie King's a little bit further back than he was a couple of corners ago. Maybe Jamie King's just settling for this third position, a valiant effort after crashing out on lap number 2. But Rob Petit, 4 more corners to go for your race leader, the number 8, taking it nice and easy. Don't want to push too hard, powering down the straight and towards the third to last corner. Through the left, flick it over into the right, looking over his shoulder once again, seeing where everyone else is. Oh, we've got someone down. Was that Henry Maduce out of second?
It could well be.
Penultimate corner, looked like it. But across the start finish line comes Rob Petit, number 8. Jamie King finishes second. It was Henry Maduce that crashed out the penultimate corner, trying valiantly to hold off your championship leader, and he didn't, unfortunately. But fingers crossed Henry Maduce can get back up and can at least cross the start finish line. He does. He comes across the line in third position. Callum Wybrow and Sean Whittaker next up, but the number 56 of Greg Pym trying to hold his bike together. I must have had an off on the final lap. That's such an unfortunate shame there for the Moto Team rider. But Neil Cairn there comes across the line to finish in 8th position. Callum Wybrow's in 4th, and Sean Whittaker will be looking to pick up the top 5 position.
Well, what a race there by Rob Petit on that last lap. He was 1.3 seconds slower. So Rob Petit, winner of this race, but another lap. We always say that, but if it was another lap, Jamie King could have had him. It would have been close coming over the line. But Rob Petit is your final race winner in the Pit Bike 140 and Moto Team race of the weekend. So from zero to hero, falling on the sizing lap to winning the race in race 3. Well done to him. Jamie King is second after a fantastic race, fighting through, making a mistake but carrying on from last to second. Not a bad effort from him. Henry Meduse in third, despite that fall on the final lap, did get underway, finished in third place. Callum Wybrow fourth, ahead of Sean Whittaker. Sean Whittaker and Ian Jackson, 5th and 6th, ahead of Simon Clowes, a triple winner in Moto Team this weekend. Neil Kinnaird and Tony Campana, 8th and 9th, 2nd and 3rd, respectively, in Moto Team, ahead of Greg Pym and Vince Bailey. Then Daniel Gilbert retired after a few laps after a fall at turn 2. And it is still raining. The rain starting to be leaked down, with Alistair Kinnaird not starting this race due to coming off the circuit at the very start of the race. So a great race there from our Pit Bike 140 and Moto Team competitors. They will be back out at Rowra in Cumbria, one of their favourite circuits in the calendar, in a few weeks' time. We move on now to the Junior LC40 Elite, but thank you very much for joining us. This is live coverage of round 6 of the 2019 Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bike Championship. Liam Hodgins and Dan Marr here, bringing you all of the action over the course of the weekend on Motorsport Radio, on Motorsport TV, and on the Cool Fab Racing website. Thank you very much for joining us. Great to have you with us. So, Junior LC40 Elite out in just a few moments' time. Just an update for those who didn't hear during that last race. We have got confirmation of the Cine Minimoto race, not Cine Minimoto, sorry, it will be the AC40 Rookies race 2. They will be out after Cine Minimoto's race 3, so they will get all 3 races in this weekend. Great to see that they are going to get all 3 races in, and a great job there by Race Control.
You say it's going to be getting all 3 races in. Looking at the commentary box window, we can see the rain is falling ever heavier, so fingers crossed there won't be any more delays. But we've got the race heading round at the moment. It's going to be the LC40 Elite, so we probably will get 2 sighting laps as the rain continues to fall. But the order is going to look like this. Your championship leader will be aiming for his 15th race win of the season. Johnny Garnett, bike number 57, will lead off pole position on the grid. Samuel Munson will be in 2nd position once again for the 3rd time this weekend. 2nd in the championship, and of course the AC40 Pros championship leader Mason Foster will be in 3rd position ahead of an absent Josh Bannister. So Josh Bannister should be on the grid in 4th, but unfortunately broke his elbow yesterday, so he won't be participating in any of his races this weekend. Ronnie Harris will be on bike number 66 in 5th, ahead of Clayton Edmonds on bike 146. Cameron Still on bike 100 ahead of Ethan Sparks on bike number 62. Henry McCartney on bike 31 for the LC40 Elite class will be starting in 9th ahead of Charlie Huntingford on bike 76, rounding out the top 10. In 11th will be the 11 of Finnan Wedity. Holly Harris is next up in 15th. Greg Marshall in 13th position on the grid on bike number 19 ahead of the 99 Warwick Brady, and rounding out the runners and riders for the start of the LC40 Elite race number 3 in these horrible wet conditions at the Daventry circuit, Whilton Mill. The Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bikes Championship will be Jacob Stevenson. So the riders are making their way around their 2nd sighting lap before the start of this race. So if you're just joining us, thank you and welcome to the 2019 Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bikes Championship. We had one race yesterday, one set of races yesterday, and we've had the 2nd set of races already today. We're into the 3rd now, and if you've just joined us, it was a little bit dry earlier on. The rain is now picked up. We've had slight delays here, so if you're just joining us, you might be wondering why we're not on schedule, but that's the reason. We had to be delayed through the wet conditions, and LC40 Elite Race, our 4th race, our 3rd set of races are on the way to the grid. So we can hear them lining up on the grid. as the Raiders will be coming into position. Everyone's waiting on the grid just to make sure that they're in the right positions on the grid. And for our visual viewers, you can see this action shot from side on of the front row of the grid. Johnny Garness and Samuel Munson just having a chat to each other. Mason Foster on bike 88 just behind them on the second row of the grid. A great set of riders in this class, some stars of the future. So far this season we've had a fantastic classic bunch of battles between the number 57 of Johnny Garness and the 88 of Mason Foster. So much so we've been enjoying it so much that we just can't stop talking about it. But Johnny Garness going for his 15th race win of the season. But with these wet conditions now on us, who will it be? We're waiting for the riders at the back of the grid to get into their positions. The rain is falling a little bit heavier horizontally out on track as the marshals will be taking a step off to the side of the circuit, and they'll be waiting for the red lights to appear. So the revs will be rising, the plumes of smoke, the red lights are on, revs are up, and away they go. And it's a great start from Samuel Munson to the 72 off the front row of the grid, but not as good as Johnny Garness from pole position. Samuel Munson, great start into second. Johnny Garness trying to get away, but the 66 of Ronnie Harris already up to third spot, side by side with the 88 of Mason Foster as they power the way up to Christmas Corner at the far end of the circuit. Some riders wearing some raincoats out there in the circuit, so that's just to stop the water getting into the seams in the leather. So if you're wondering why some riders have got something flapping around in the wind, that's exactly what it is. Warwick Brady, who's shown his credentials already in the wet conditions so far this season, is already up past the 146 of Clayton Edmonds. So fantastic start there from the young rider, the number 99 of Warwick Brady, already gapping now that gaggle of riders. So he's up to about 5th or 6th position in the early stages of this race. But at the top of the field, it's Johnny Garness still leading the way at the end of lap 1. Samuel Munson still in second. Mason Foster has just pulled ahead of Ronnie Harris for third.
Well, pulling away, they are going to have to contend with the weather though. I was just nipping outside for just a moment. It didn't appear, it looks heavier than it is. It's actually quite fine rain. So it's that tricky stuff that seems to get into your visor. So when you're trying to look where you're going, you're getting it burst into you. It's quite difficult to see where you're going, but it is slowly falling down heavier and heavier once again. Garness though leading from Munson and Foster, as you mentioned. What a great performance from those three, making some great pace away from the rest of their compatriots. Harris, Brady, they're all fighting away, and with about 7 laps to go, they've got a lap and a half gone so far, and it is getting a bit more tricky. Warwick Brady fighting away with Charlie Huntingford. They've both had some great battles this weekend. They just continue that, although I don't think Huntingford's bike seems to have a front fairing on it, so either that may have fallen off or they've done that for some kind of cooling in this kind of weather.
Maybe they have done, maybe it's just a bit of weight loss as well on the bike in these tough conditions. But that is, of course, Charlie Huntingford on the 76, moving up to 5th position ahead of the 99 of Warwick Brady as they go through the double left-hander. Flick it right, powering down the back straight for the second time. Cameron Sewell on bike 100 has stopped, trying to wipe his visor. The very cool looking Cameron Sewell. So yellow flag out on circuit for Cameron Sewell. Not sure if he's crashed or if there's been a bit of an issue with the bike. Whoa, nearly throttling it so much that the bike nearly flew away from both of them. But fingers crossed that Cameron Sewell can get back into the race. Not doing so just yet. Stomping with rage. Not happy. There's Cameron Sewell, is he?
Well, I think that's because he looked over to a camera, noticed the camera was pointing at him and filming him, and then, oh bother, it seems to be filming me and my antics here. So probably out of embarrassment more than anything there, Liam. So never good. But yellow flags, as mentioned, going into that section that restricts them from overtaking into that particular corner. Garness versus Munson. The rain is getting heavier. Whatever dry lines were appearing, they're quickly disappearing on Garness's back. It looks like he's wearing one of those really big overcoats that your dad gives you. You've got to wear it for about 6 years because it's still too big for you. But he's certainly having it to good effect. It's a little bit more draggy, and Munson's using that to his advantage in the slipstream. On Ryder's left-hand side, Munson goes for the inside line into the chicane, makes the move. So Samuel Munson, the number 72, on the inside line at the left hand of the chicane, makes the race lead. So he's in a very good position now. He can start attacking the course as he wants to. He's got Garness behind him, though Johnny's not going to give him the space to not do it. Mason Foster is catching them up, and significantly so. 1 minute 8.401, 2.5 tenths quicker than Samuel Munson, over a second quicker than Johnny Garness. So it's all concertinaing up for the battle for the race lead. Garnes thinking about a move up the inside at turn 3. Christmas corner, can't quite make it work though. So another lap in the bag. 3 laps completed, we're on lap 4. So at the halfway distance in this race, and so far the battle for the top 3 is the closest it's been all weekend, as again Garnes right over the back, cuts left, cuts right, nearly goes up the back of Samuel Munson, fighting away for the race lead into the first of 2 left-handed corners, right in the curve just slightly, just enough to rotate the bike, not enough though to make the overtake.
I want to draw your attention to the rider in third, Mason Foster. Now, usually in this LC40 Elite class, he's got a slightly different looking bike. It's orange and black, but right now he's got his yellow bike, so I'm not sure if he's running the air-cooled bike.
I think he is, yes.
So maybe he's finding that's a little bit easier to run in the wet conditions. He can feel the bike a little bit more, also because he's actually raced in it earlier on in the day, so he might be more comfortable to race that bike instead of the liquid-cooled bikes that he should be running in this class. But Munson still leading the way as the rain's falling a little bit heavier out on the racetrack. The puddles are starting to form. Munson is splashing through them, and Johnny Garnes up towards Christmas corner, late on the brakes. Can he push past Munson? Not doing it just yet. Biding his time through the chicane section. Biding his time. I thought he was about to look round the outside of Munson as he went through the left-hander, but not doing it just yet. Mason Foster's very quick in the twisty section of track in third position there, so maybe he does have this air-cooled bike and is very quick in the twisty section, but loses out in the quick stuff, so through the straights and the fast corners. But Mason Foster closing down Johnny Garnes, the number 57.72 of Samuel Munson, took the lead of this race a few laps ago, and Johnny Garnes with the overcoat on, it looks like, not even one of those wet coats they should have like a poncho, it just looks like a normal raincoat that he's got on at the moment. So making the way through the couple of corners. Yeah, it looked like Samuel Munson had a bit of a mistake just before we looked at the number 66 there of Ronnie Harris for the visual viewers, but we'll have to keep an eye as they come across Starfight line now. Samuel Munson still leads the way, so it wasn't a big enough mistake for Johnny Garnes to take advantage of, but Samuel Munson still brilliantly leading this race.
Well, it wasn't necessarily a big mistake, but it was one that allowed Garnes to have a sniff at the lead once again into the final 2 corners. He's got a great slipstream as the wind's picking up, the rain's getting heavier. Garnes takes the lead again into Christmas corner, turn number 3. He goes cut back from left to right, side by side with Munson. They're side by side again. The 57 running a bit deep, and the 72 of Munson back up the inside at the second hairpin. So for a few glorious corners, all was well with Johnny Garnes again, as he got such a great run out of turn number 2, right up the inside. Riders right hand side, we've got a rider down at the final corner.
66
looks to be the 66 of Ronnie Harris, who had a moment a few corners ago and had another fall. Continues in this race, it seems. Rider seems to be okay. So Munson gaps Garnes again though. He's made a better run through the left and the right at the infield section of the corner. 2 left-handers on the right-handed corner. So Munson and Garnes are the 2 battling for the race lead. Mason Foster simply doesn't seem to have the straight line ability of these 2, which on an air-cooled bike wouldn't be much of a surprise really, just doesn't have that straight line pace. Garnes with the new fastest lap, 1 minute 8.255, 1 minute 8.335 for Munson. So 2 laps to go. Once again ducking into the slipstream. Johnny Garnes of 57 with the pace, with the ability to make the overtake. Doesn't go for it to Christmas corner, but tags the curb. He almost loses the front end as he tries to bite a little too much of the curb at the inside at turn number 3. Mason Foster isn't close enough. It's not something we often say, just isn't close enough to try and go for the move, and that has given Samuel Munson a bit more breathing space through the infield for the penultimate time. Looking over his left shoulder just a little, not so worried about the overall position, but coming into the final lap within the few corners time is Munson, Garnes and Foster, the top 3. Huntingford in 4th ahead of Warwick Brady. Marshall and Edmonds ahead of Jacob Stevenson and Ronnie Harris. Cameron Saul only completing 1 lap in this race, so only 9 runners out there for the time being. Munson's not worried about how many runners there are out there for the time being through the final corner for the penultimate time. He sees the final lap board. He's got a few riders in front of him. He's going to have to negotiate on this final lap. So Johnny Garnes with the fastest lap. He's only 7 tenths behind. Munson versus Garnes. Who is going to be the winner of this final junior LC40 Elite race of the weekend?
The 57 Garnes is a little bit too far back at the moment. Samuel Munson is doing everything he can. The race 3 winner from lead last time out is in commanding position so far around this last half a lap. A bit of a moment there from Johnny Garnes. Last lap has now allowed Mason Foster to close up, but nearly tagging the back of the 150 1.46 of Clayton Edmonds in front of him. It slowed him up. Garness up the inside into the double left-hander. Can he do it? No, he can't, but trying to get themselves round Clayton Edmonds. Opportunistic from Johnny Garness as he saw that Munson got stood up by the back marker of Clayton Edmonds. 3 more corners to go for the LC40 Elite. He's not close enough yet, but Johnny Garness, you know he will try it. He always tries it on the last couple of laps. 2 corners remaining. Penultimate corner. There's another back marker. And no, he can. Mason Foster pounce on both of them. Can Garness get the run out of the corner? No, he can't. Samuel Munson comes across the line. The number 72 picks up his second race win in 2 weeks ahead of Johnny Garness. Mason Foster has to settle for the final podium position on bike number 88. Great last lap there from those 3. Very intense stuff as the rain began to fall ever heavier as the race came to a close. The puddle started to form and they splashed through it, but they managed to stay on, which is great. A bit of a nod of the head from both riders. Great respect there on a very close encounter's last lap.
And that was a real challenge, especially halfway through. You mentioned that fantastic moment where Garness went to the right. It was also Munson on the left-hand side, right around the outside of each side of the race of Clayton Edmonds, but that was the result then. Samuel Munson, final winner of the weekend in the Junior LC40 Elite. He beat Johnny Garness by just half a second on that last lap of 8. And Mason Foster in third, taking the final spot on the podium. And what we believe he was using his normal AC40 Pro bike rather than this liquid-cooled LC40 Elite bike. 4th place went to Charlie Huntingford. In the end, I had a Warwick Brady. Greg Marshall comes home in 6th with another good haul of points for Greg, and he will be relatively pleased with that 6th place. Ronnie Harris and Clayton Edmonds were 7th and 8th. A few tumbles for Ronnie Harris during that race, and also for Clayton Edmonds, with Jacob Stevenson coming home in 9th, Cameron Saul only completing 1 lap. But that was it for the Junior LC40 Elite. They are heading back to the paddock with a bit of a leaf on their heads after a great challenge. Many of their compatriots going up to them and cheering them, as well as the rest of the field. So that is the end of the Junior LC40 Elite. They will be back at Rowler in a few weeks' time. And thank you for joining us on the Motorsport Radio website, on motorsport.tv and on Cool Fab Racing. This is live coverage of round 6 of the 2019 Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bike Championships, live from Whilton Mill in Daventry. So as we take a quick breath as we move on to the 3rd race of the weekend for the senior mini motos. They haven't yet headed out onto circuit, but just a reminder, the 2nd AC40 Rookies race of the weekend, that will take place after this race. This is the 3rd senior mini moto race of the weekend, Liam.
It is indeed the Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bikes Championship, live from Daventry, the Whilton Mill karting circuit, playing host to round number 6 of this fantastic racing series, the road to MotoGP, and we are of course the official partner series to the British Superbike Championship. We've had some great battles so far this weekend from the senior mini motos. Richard Holmes-Williams taking the fight to your championship leader Bernie Hook on the Zero bike, but there's looks like a depleted field as they make their way onto the circuit for the green flag lap. Maybe some of them just packed up and gone home early, just saying it's a little bit too tricky out there, but there's more puddles forming on the circuit out of turn 2, but thankfully it's on the inside of the circuit. But with these mini motos and the adults on them anyway, they won't care one little bit. They'll just go out, have a little bit of fun on track, whether it is wet or dry or even in the snow. In some cases they might just race in that anyway. But
I think we have had that before.
Have we actually? That would have been a lot of fun if that was the case. So the green flag lap, the first sighting lap for the senior mini motos, just feeling the way around the circuit, feeling where the grip is and where the grip isn't. But as they do that, we'll just run down at how the grid looks, and it's going to be your championship leader, the Zero of Bernie Hook, leading them away from pole position on the grid, ahead of the number 5 of Matt Birkin, 2nd position. Then Richard Holmes-Williams, who crashed out of race at number 2 but managed to remount and finish 2nd a little bit earlier on today, will be starting in 3rd, ahead of the number 4 of Josh Birkin. Adam Ambrose on bike 21 will be 5th on the grid, ahead of the 7 of Andy Whedon, who usually runs with a cardboard cutout of his number, but I doubt he will in these wet conditions today. Simon Huntingford will be next up on bike 47, ahead of the 81 Craig Ashall. In 8th position, Chris Yeomans on bike number 85 will be in 9th, ahead of Ricky Goosey, who's running at the top 10 for the start of this race on bike 36. Neil Skinner on bike 13 should be next up in 11th. Jess Lucas on bike 136 will be next up in 12th position, and on the back row of the grid, 30th position on the grid, 137 machine will be Aston Dean. So the rain falls ever heavier, and Dan Moore, we could get a stoppage here, or we could just get a lot of entertainment from the senior mini motos race number 3 today.
Well, it will get underway in a few moments. No indication of a stoppage at the moment. The wet conditions always provide fantastic racing from the senior mini motos. Of course, one only has to think back to GYG last season with that photo finish for third place involving the bikes being thrown over the line. Of course, many regulars in the cool FAB-Racing paddocks may recall that made national news in the Daily Mail, amongst other things. So, riders heading out onto the circuit. They are just getting ready onto the grid for the final time ahead of the third and final race of the weekend. Thank you for joining us. It is live coverage of round 6 of the 2019 Cool FAB-Racing British Mini Bike Championships. The rain is getting heavier, and we are live on Motorsport TV, on the Motorsport Radio website, and on the Cool FAB-Racing website. Thank you for liking, keep sharing, let the whole world know your love for our racing here at Cool Fab. And as always, a big thank you to the marshals and the medics, who are some of which are stood waiting anxiously ahead of the start of this race, and many riders are looking very anxiously towards the start of the grid. Liam mentioned a few moments ago, the grid is fairly depleted. There does seem to be a lot fewer people on the grid than we had entered initially, but these wet conditions are always difficult to set up for, and especially if you've got to pack up in the wet and go racing after you've been soggy and you just want to lie down for a bit. It can be a challenge, but there may be one or two empty rows, but that's not going to dampen our enthusiasm here. The third and final race of the weekend for the senior mini motos is about to get underway. The red lights will come on in just a moment. The revs rise, and everyone is waiting impatiently. As red light is on now, it goes out. Good start from the front row. Matt Birkin makes another decent start into second place, but being contested for that second place, Bernie Hook made a pretty good start as well. Richard Holmes-Williams, I'm not sure where he is. There's a few riders, including I think Josh Birkin, who slowed coming through turn number 1, must have had an incident and falling off at turn 1 already, not boding well for the next 8 laps or so. Josh Birkin, though, running in second position. Everyone else continuing around, including number 81. We say that as a rider slowing on the exit of Christmas Corner. Number 0, that is Bernie Hook. That is Bernie Hook. You're right there, Liam. He's making his way into the 4th corner. And, well, the wet is certainly a tricky thing for all of these senior mini moto riders. Staying on the island is going to be the tricky thing to do, but with the next 8 laps to complete, that's what you got to do.
It is indeed, and the rain's falling ever heavier around this Whilton Mill racecourse, and we've got Craig Ashall making some moves. So the former British mini bike champion from the early 2000s is really coming into his own in these wet conditions, and it looks like he's maybe made his way up into second. Matt Birkin leading the way at the moment. Don't know if Richard Holmes-Williams is out there in the circle. We've got a crash at the back, but that's Aston Dean on bike 137. So Aston Dean looked like he's having a good opening lap there, but he's back in the race after crashing out at the penultimate corner. But Matt Birkin is leading the way ahead of Simon Huntingford. Bernie Hook in 3rd, ahead of Adam Ambrose, Josh Birkin in 5th, and Aston Dean in 6th.
And Aston Dean, his visor seems to be extremely misted on the official radio stream. Thanks for joining us if you are on that. But it was extremely clouded and misted. It seems he could hardly see where he was going. So no great surprise he made that mistake. But Bernie Hook again ahead of Simon Huntingford. Simon Huntingford's also got the number 21 of Adam Ambrose in the mix to fight for that 4th place and 3rd place at the moment. Matt Birkin off on his own. He's got a bit of time to reflect on what's going on at the moment. Up the inside goes the number 21 of Adam Ambrose through on Simon Huntingford. Josh Birkin's now getting involved and trying to go right around the outside. And the second part of the 2 left-handers onto the back straight, looks over his left shoulder, tries to tap him on the shoulder. Oh, he's saying, come on mate, get out of my way, I'm faster than you. It's a bit of an entertaining battle, but of course a lot of great banter, a lot of great friendships in this senior mini moto class, all very tight-knit races, so they don't mind a bit of banter like that on circuit.
They don't indeed, and there's usually quite a lot of laughs we get from this class as well. I was going to say Josh Birkin is definitely someone to keep an eye out on, even though he's only 7 seconds behind Matt Birkin. in the wet conditions of race number 1 back at Leeds, he was very, very quick as he's making a move on the 21 of Ambrose, powering past him out of turn at number 2, all the way up to Christmas Corner there. So he's up into 3rd spot, just behind your championship leader Bernie Hook. But Josh Birkin's knee slide on the left hand side looks like it's just hanging on by a thread at the moment, so that could be quite annoying for Josh Birkin. If he tags it on one of the curves, it might pull off, or it might pull him off the bike. But as he closes on your championship leader, he usually runs a red bike, he's running a white bike at the moment. The rain's coming down ever more, and as you can see, for our visual viewers, thank you very much if you are watching this, the rain is really soaking the racetrack. But Josh Birkin powering down the back straight, late on the brakes. Wow, what a move there from Josh Birkin. Didn't look like he braked at all, but he's now up into 2nd behind Matt Birkin. So as he come across our finish line in the next few moments, we will see the lap times. And he's down, no, he's down in the final corner, pushing too hard. He slid out, he's back up, he's okay. He must have lost a couple of seconds in that. That is crazy stuff there from the senior mini motos. Thankfully,
The leader, that was the leader.
everyone's crashing and at least Craig Ashcroft.
But does it though, because he's carrying on like nothing's happening. But Bernie Hook starting to close up along with Adam Ambrose in the number 21. The Birkins, they're down, but they're certainly not out in this race. Got 5 laps to go, so it is still all to play for. Craig Ashall well in the mix at the moment, but Bernie Hook and Adam Ambrose fighting for those final 2 steps on the podium as they make their way through the first one of 2 long left-handers, and the rain is getting more and more unpredictable by the lap. The blue and orange leathers on Matt Birkin fighting with Josh Birkin, so the Birkin family back together once more, although they certainly weren't hoping to be together on track. In fact, Josh managed to get past Matt. I think they might want to go home after that. I think we've had enough of this, it's embarrassing. But joking aside, slipping and sliding their way through the final few corners and rotating the cars and rotating the bikes very differently. Josh on Matt, and they're down again. They've both gone down at the same corner. My goodness me, ladies and gentlemen, you don't see this very often. They're both playing it up to the crowd. They're absolutely dancing. The pair of them, Matt Birkin and Josh Birkin, both go down at the final corner. Line astern, a synchronised falling there. My goodness me, what a moment there. They're trying to make that. I'll tell you what, this is a repeat for GYG last year. After the moments that we got published and got put in the Daily Mail yesterday, last year, they're both enjoying it, and now they're swimming. Come on lads, they're just not bothering in riding anymore. They're just trying to play it up for the crowd. They're going to go for the Comedy Club next. I want to see what happens with them. All of this, Bernie Hook and Adam Ambrose, they think naff this, we're just going to go motor racing, and currently leading this race. But my goodness me, Josh and Matt Birkin are going to be absolutely in stitches after this. The rain's heavier, there's 4 laps to go. I think this might be getting to their head. We better cut away from them and into someone else before they get any more trouble. But my goodness me, that was an entertaining few moments there, Liam, wasn't it? And down has gone the race leader. That's Bernie Hook. Bernie Hook has gone down. This is absolute madness. Wow, what racing we got. He's got a problem with the bike though. The chains come off the back, so he's going to have to do that in the pouring wet at the side of the circuit. So that means Adam Ambrose is going to be promoted to the lead, and the time next Simon Huntingford is. So Simon Huntingford leading on our timing screens. It's Craig Ashall's up in the mix there as well. Bernie Hook losing positions, and Josh and Matt Birkin 2nd and 3rd from our timing screens. Bernie Hook back into this race, so good to have Bernie Hook back into this race. But Josh and Matt promoted back to the podium. What is this race? This is absolutely fantastic stuff.
Simon Huntingford has stayed on, and he's found himself in the lead of the senior mini rotor.
We have to take touchwood at this point.
Yes, there's only 2.5 laps remaining. Anything can happen so far, but for the visual viewers, you can see how much the rain is falling. If you're not here at the circuit and you're listening in, the rain is coming down massively here. There's puddles forming. You can't see what's going on. Both the Birkins have crashed about 100 times each, and they're both in 2nd and 3rd. So Matt Birkin chasing down Josh Birkin. Both got orange on the leathers. Josh in the black. Matt and the blue, they're going to come up towards the final corner any moment now. Will they crash out or will they stay on? Fingers crossed. No one else is going to crash out.
Confident about that.
Yeah, I'm not feeling confident at all. But as Josh Birkin makes his way down to the final corner, has he stayed on? Yes, he has. Matt Birkin will be next up. Will he stay on? Yes, he does.
Wow.
So it's still good to see both of them have stayed on. 2 laps remaining and only 2.3 seconds. Oh no, now in the lead of the race. Was that Simon Huntingford has come off as well?
They did. In fact, no, he didn't come off. What I think happened, they went past him going into the final corner. He waved them through and went, go on lads, you go and do your thing. I'm just going to stay here for a while. But Josh, the number 4, Josh Birkin is leading. The number 4 rider, Josh Birkin, heading into the second hairpin, leads Matt Birkin. Just 2.3 seconds behind the race leader on the screen now with the black and orange leathers. Now, there's another rider pulled off at the top of Christmas corner. Can't see the numbers, so I'm not sure who that is. But they're heading to the infield. They are up and okay. I don't think they fell, just a technical query. But the rain getting ever heavier. The track is getting soaked. The racing line is becoming more blurred and difficult. And with a lap and a half to go, Josh Birkin has to stay on the island now because he's going in danger of losing the win if he doesn't. He's 2.3 seconds ahead of Matt Birkin aboard the number 5 machine. Looking over his right shoulder, a little bit misted inside the helmet, probably giggling to himself all the way to the bank as he heads over the line for the penultimate time. He starts the final lap. Lee Clowes, the flag marshal, doing and holding the last lap board, giggling as he tries to swim against the tide. One of the riders still trying to get that through. I'm not sure who that is, but Josh Birkin leads this race, the number 4 leading this race with 2/3 of a lap to go, Liam.
I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if they'll all stay on in this one here, but they're not taking it like a duck to water. Everyone's come off in a senior mini motor race, but Josh Birkin looks like he's taking it very easy now. Maybe he's learned his lesson after all those crashes he's had. He's telling Matt Birkin to hurry up and catch up. Will they have a photo finish coming across the line, or will it be synchronised swimming as they come across our finish line? We've got one of the riders walking away with his bike smiling. He's had a lot of fun so far here today, but the tyres are spitting up so much water from the senior mini motos. The rain is lashing down out there on the Whilton Mill racecourse here in Daventry. It should be sunny, but it's not. 3 more corners to go. Can Josh Birkin stay on to take his first race win of the season, or will he crash out once again in the final corner?
Round, isn't he?
He's looking over his shoulder, he's looking for Matt. Towards the final corner they come. Who will it be? Will it be the number 4 of Josh Birkin? He stayed on, thankfully. Across the start finish line it comes. Josh Birkin puts his feet on his bike. They're both having a bit of fun out there. They're well done, lads, staying on the bike. Josh Birkin takes his first race win of the season from Matt Birkin after both crashed out and both swimming as they look towards the camera out there. And Josh Birkin and Matt Birkin, synchronised swimmers, synchronised crashing as well.
Well, synchronised everything. They're 1 and 2 in this race. What a fantastic performance from Josh and Matt Birkin. They're slowing down. They're off to have a chat. Real great camaraderie as they're talking one another. Josh on the right and Matt on the left, second and first respectively, but they make their way back to the paddock. They're pretty pleased with each other after that particular result, and it's not something we have that often, although whenever we have it, it seems to be the senior mini motos that give it. They're both off. Oh, there we go. They're on the ground. They're swimming on the ground. Ladies and gentlemen, Josh and Matt Birkin, senior mini moto riders and part-time comedians, it seems, but they went through every single season. A big wave for the camera as well. I think he was saying he's first in that particular instance, but Josh Birkin, the winner of this race ahead of Matt Birkin. Bernie Hook, the number 0, third place in the end. I think it probably feels a bit neglected. Ashton Dean in 4th, ahead of Adam Ambrose in 5th place. Simon Huntingford retirement from this race, unfortunately, but I can certainly think our producer Lester Forbes can hear the Daily Mail phones ringing right now after another dramatic moment in the rain here at Cool Fab Racing. I'm pretty sure. Keep an eye on the old social media, because that will be replayed over and over again. But I think maybe the Ryan Grant fan club will have a thing or two to say about that. But as I continue, Josh and Matt Birkin pretty happy with each other. The marshals, in fact, getting involved with this as well. They're just trying to get them to hurry up and off the circuit. But whilst we muse about their amusement, it's important to note the rain is getting much heavier, and it's about the heaviest since it was the AC40 Rookies race was postponed earlier on. Now, AC40 Rookies race 2 was due to go out now, but depending on the conditions, I'm not sure whether they will be in the next ones out. I'll look out the window, but no one in the assembly area thus far, so it may be what's happening. But Matt Birkin sort of talking away to his friends and family in the paddock, demonstrating how difficult that particular race was. Well, great action we've had here. Round 6 of the 2019 Cool FAB-Racing British Mini Bike Championship. We're live on Motorsport Radio, on the Cool FAB-Racing website, and at Motorsport TV here at the Whilton Mill circuit in Daventry. It's Liam Hodgins and Dan Marr here on commentary. So the AC40 rookies. So we are doing the AC40 Rookies Race 2 now. So the rain is pelting down, it's getting extremely heavy. For those of you tuned in to our visual video stream will see the water on the circuit, standing water and puddles, which is very difficult to navigate through. You can see some of the bike tyre marks that have gone through there over the last few days. And such a slippery circuit, they call it Slippery Mill here at Whilton Mill when the rain sets in, due to the sheer amount of rubber set on the racing line. Nice and grippy when it's dry, horrendous when it's wet. But the AC40 Rookies Race 2 are due to go out in just a few moments' time. Just to remind you, for the rest of the order, once they've had their Race 2, it will be the Mini GP 50s Race 3 ahead of the Extreme 200s. The Mini F1 sidecars will follow them. Then it will be AC40 Rookies Race 3, so they've got a pretty close set of races, but I'm sure they'll quite enjoy that challenge. Followed by the Mini GP70s to round out the weekend here at Whilton Mill. But the AC40 Rookies head out onto circuit for the second time of the weekend. It's Liam Hodgins with the grid.
And it's going to be your championship leader who will lead them off pole position for the start of this race. I suspect that there will be 2 green flag laps, potentially 3 for these young riders. These are the youngest riders in Cool FAB-Racing paddock to just bed themselves into this Whilton Mill race course. A lot of rain is falling at the moment. This race has been postponed to later on in the day after running slick tyres and crashed out of the second lap from earlier on. We've got a rider pushing a bike at the exit of Christmas Corner, so not sure who that could be. They're waving at the marshals to give them a hand with the start of the bike. They haven't come off the bike, their bike has just stopped, so thankfully that's one of the issues out of the way, but fingers crossed they can get themselves back into the race. But I'll run down the rest of the grid. So it's Archie Gibbs leading off Casey Spade, because someone else stopped out there in the circuit at the bottom end hairpin, trying to start the bike up with a starter motor, yanking it into power, and it's back up and running once again. So maybe some water is getting into the electrics, and of course the engine here on the AC40 rookie bikes. And the other rider at the bottom end of the circuit is still sitting there looking dejected, just waiting for someone to come over. It's like, come on, where are you all? Please give me a hand, I want to start this race. Someone's run over in the nick of time, so that's the three potentially of Brandon Keane. So that might be the 333 of Brandon Keane. So the grid for the start of the AC40 Rookies will be Archie Gibbs leading Casey Spady on bike number 20. Luke Fitchett on 93 will be in third, ahead of Ollie Sims. Joshua Williams with a fractured thumb will be leading from fifth on the grid. Row number 3, Marco Holt is next up in 58. In sixth spot, William Harris on bike number 10 will be in 7th, ahead of the 333 of Brandon Keane. Archie O'Brien on bike number 91 in 9th, ahead of Harry Payne on bike number 11. Thorley Trevorrow on bike number 42 will be next up in 11th, just missing out on a top 10 starting position. Wilson Dilks on bike number 85 in 12th. Arnie Carr on bike 83 will be in 13th. Max Wilson, who will be testing out those wet conditions for the first time or for the second time after his transition from go-kart racing over to mini bikes. Enjoyed it so much, thought he'd come back for some more here at Whilton Mill. He'll be in 14th spot, ahead of Byron Johnson on bike 273, and then in 16th will be Bailey Lawrence. Felix Dorling on bike number 87 will be in 17th spot, ahead of Minnie Rossi on the all-pink bike. Bike number 46, Izzy Carter, will be in 18th. Austin Johnson on 327 will be next up in 19th, ahead of Callum Maxwell on bike 111. So it's a 273 that's trying to start off there. Chloe Hill will be in 21st, and Bethany Ashby on bike number 8. We'll round out the runners and riders for the start of the AC40 Rookie race number 2 here at Whilton Mill.
So it's 327, one of the riders, that's Austin Johnson, also Byron Johnson. So both Johnsons aren't having a particularly good time out there at the moment. The rain getting ever heavier really, really tricky conditions out there, as you mentioned there, Liam, for these young riders, the youngest riders in the field. It's a great learning experience, but it's a challenge nonetheless. With 8 laps in prospect, the rain pattering down on the grid. Umbrellas out, making sure everyone stays nice and dry. And just to reiterate, a very big thank you to all of our marshals, all of our medics, and our race control. It's been a very tricky day weather-wise. We simply couldn't go racing without you guys and girls out there persevering through the rain. So a big thank you to all of you. We can't reiterate just how much we mean that, because it is a real great thing that you guys do. Voluntary efforts for many of you out there. So as the rain gets heavier and the race is about to get underway, everyone's just making sure they're ready to go. These air-cooled bikes, it's pretty cool out there temperature wise, so it's tricky to get them in the right operating window. Just make sure they're all still running, which is why there are a few marshals and assistants out on the grid, just to make sure, Liam, that they're all revving up, ready to go.
They are indeed, and I think they're just making sure that a lot of the parents are there, just making sure that their kids are ready to go and they'll be nice and safe on circuit. But there's a lot of rain out on the circuit. The rain, every time we look out the window, and for the visual viewers at home, every time we look at it, it seems to be coming down even heavier, so it's lashing down, but it looks like we're going to get underway nonetheless, Dan.
Race start then for race 2 of the AC40 rookies. They look towards the red lights, they pick out, they look up, you look, but don't take too long staring. The red lights on, it's out pretty quickly as well. Good start from the front row. Ollie Sims and Luke Fitchett making a pretty good start. They had a good one in yesterday's first race, but as they make their way through turns 1 and 2 for the first time, it's going to be tricky to make sure absolutely everyone filters through. But touch wood, it seems like they've all managed to get through cleanly. The rain's pouring, you can hardly see the riders in the course in front of you. The rooter tail's pretty big. We've got rider down. We've got one rider down immediately down at turn number 3, Christmas corner. There seems to be the 42 of Thorley Trevorrow. Thanks there, Liam, as he does get on the way. Riders up and back into the race. So just a big moment right to the way back of the field. You've got 7 laps to go. Doing a 8 or 7 lap encounter, it's not too long, of which you've got to push, get that temperature into the tyres, but also make some positions. The top 3, including Archie Gibbs, making the best start out of it and leading this first lap.
Casey Spady had a great run at lead in the wet conditions last time out. Race number 1. He's taking the lead of the race now, so he's powered past your championship leader Archie Gibbs, who looked like he might have had a bit of a moment coming out of the corner, and Ollie Sims has moved up into second. So the number 20 of Casey Spady, his hero must be Fabio Quartararo for the number 20 on his bike. Powers down to the final corner on the circuit. Sperry leads them across the start finish line to start lap number 2. Sperry leads Sims. Gibbs, who was leading the race, is now back to 3rd position. There's a big gap of over 3 seconds back to 4th position. It's Williams on the number 10, ahead of Brandon Keane. Marco Holt also making a great start into 6th. Harry Payne in 7th, Archie O'Brien in 8th, Wilson Dilks in 9th, and Luke Fitchett on the number 96, who's 3rd in the championship, has had an awful first lap. He's dropped down to 10th position as the riders tip their way round the track here, looking like they're going at only 2 miles an hour. But Ollie Sims is lining up Casey Spady. They've both dropped Archie Gibbs. Archie Gibbs just trying to protect his championship lead. The circuit resembles a swimming pool out there. It's like a sheet of white ice out there. You can see the reflections.
You don't need to be a hero in these conditions, just bring it home, bag some points, because ultimately come the end of the year you're going to regret the race you didn't finish rather than the race that you finished in 6th or 7th and got a few points. But as the rain continues to come down, the edge has been taken off the rain. The edge has been taken off Casey Sperry's run as well. Through has gone the number 73 of Ollie Sims into the race lead, but Casey Sperry, as you say, had a great run at lead, emulating that fantastic run in the wet once again, through the puddles, through everything else. But as we continue through this race, once again, Casey Sperry and Ollie Sims are your 2 race leaders. Archie Gibbs in 3rd. 4th is William Harris at the moment, but as we continue on with this race, William Harris set the new fastest lap, 1 minute 18.517, so actually flying out of circuit a matter of 3 or 4 seconds and I'm quicker than everyone else in front of him. So the number 10 rider in 4th place, closing up slowly, just 77 thousandths of a second between Sperry and Sims. Gibbs in 3rd. Brandon Keane is 5th ahead of Henry Payne and Archie O'Brien. Marco Holt and Wilson Dilks is in 9th ahead of Luke Fitchett. Fitchett, you mentioned, had a poor opening lap. So did Thorley Trevelo, but back up to 11th. So that pace is there with the number 42 rider. Just to confirm, Byron Johnson, I don't think started this race. No Felix Dorlin, no Austin Johnson, didn't get much further than the first lap anyway. Chloe Saul and Bethany Ashby, also not riders who got very far into this race. So only 17 out there. So there is merit in saying if you're just trying around there, you are more than likely to score points.
Absolutely indeed. I mean, it's tricky conditions out there. You've just got to bide your time. Don't push too hard. It will be a race of attrition, and some of the riders that are further down the field who may not have picked up many points so far this season can find an opportunity in these wet conditions. So splashing through the puddles they will go. And it's still Ollie Sims who leads the way, a 10th of a second ahead of Casey Sperry. Casey Sperry still holding on to the back of number 20. William Harris is up to third. Archie Gibbs is dropping down the order. Not sure what's happened to Archie Gibbs, but Archie Gibbs, who was in third position, is dropping like a stone through the order. William Harris is now up to 10th. Brandon Keane is up to 4th. Harry Payne in 5th. Archie O'Brien in 6th. And definitely something has happened to Archie Gibbs out there on the circuit, plummeting down the order.
Well, not just plummeting down the order, but something more critical is happening. It's stopped raining. The rain is lightening up. The skies are starting to lighten up as well. So the level and intensity of the conditions out there, maybe the edge really has come off it, and it's going to start to be on our side once again. Ollie Sims with the fastest lap. 1 minute 18.009, 0.160 ahead of Casey Sperry. Meanwhile, everyone else fighting around the circuit. Those pair are 5.5 seconds ahead of William Harris in third place. Brandon Keane's a further 3.5 seconds behind, and then the gaps get longer and longer and longer until you get to 7th place. Luke Fitchett enjoying a better run now. The conditions are starting to be more favourable. He was 0.005 of a second ahead of Marco Holt, so made a move coming out the final corner, got the position over the line, which is great for them to have. Marco Holt down to 8th. Max Wilson and Arnie Carr also pretty close. Further down the order, it was between Joshua Williams, Thorley Trevero in 10th, 11th and 12th, with Bailey Lawrence also 3.5 seconds behind now for William Harris with the new fastest lap, 2 seconds quicker than the front runners with a 1:17.588.
Yes, not just Casey Sperry's come alive, like a fire from the ashes has become William Harris, who's now in third spot and is closing the gap down to the race leaders, nearly 2 seconds, not 3 seconds, nearly 2 seconds a lap faster than your race leaders last time round. So they'll be coming towards the end of the lap any moment now, but they're making their way through the infield section of track. Casey Sperry looking very comfortable for the moment, just biding his time behind the number 73 of Ollie Sims. William Harris, they will have to look over their shoulder ever more. There's Archie Gibbs. So Archie Gibbs, after the moment he had earlier on, is back up into the race. Their championship leader, number 3, pulling off towards the end of the circuit, letting your race leaders through. So Casey Sperry still tucked in behind the number 73 of Ollie Sims. Powering down the straight they go. Can Casey Sperry make a way around the outside? Yes, he can. Into first position, into turn 1. What a move there by the number 20 of Casey Sperry, overtaking Ollie Sims into second spot. William Harris, something's happened to William Harris. The number 10 is dropping down the timing orders. Brandon Keane is now up to third. So William Harris on bike number 10 has had a moment out there on the circuit. Unfortunately there, he was having such a good ride.
So a shame there for William, the number 10 rider. Well, it's a real shame because he had the pace and was closing up to the leaders exponentially, but Sperry ahead of Sims. They are now 8.9 seconds ahead of Brandon Keane in third place. It's a great gap between the pair of them, and the number 20 just got so much better ride out of the final few corners. He just had the pace over Ollie Sims, and well, as everyone continues around, Archie Gibbs now out of the points, third place, side by side for the race lead again though, 73 on 20, still in second place. Ollie Sims is just biding his time and waiting. He doesn't have the ultimate pace, say, of Casey Sperry. He knows when to pick his moments, go for the race battle and the race lead, but we now got 3 corners to go until the final lap of this race. So if it's now or never, really, he's going to have to work at this, because Casey Sperry's got a couple of machine lengths through the final corner for the penultimate time. They see the final lap board out over the line. The pair go. Casey Sperry with the fastest out, 1 minute 16.327, 0.6 of a second ahead of Ollie Sims. They are the 2 for the race lead.
Ollie Sims hasn't given up in this race win just yet. He's trying to close the gap down to Casey Spady as they enter the top end of the circuit, Christmas corner, and Casey Spady in commanding position at the moment, but taking it nice and easy through the left-hander and to the right. This is where Ollie Sims definitely closes back up on the number 20 rider on the black bike. Further behind, Brandon Keane still holding third position, 4 seconds ahead of the 11 of Harry Payne. But a few more corners to go for Casey Spady. Can he hold on to take his first race win of the season, or can Ollie Sims close the gap back down to Archie Gibbs? No matter what, if he stays on, he will close the gap back to Archie Gibbs in the championship. Remaining in second won't be such a bad result for the 73 rider, powering down the back straight in towards the third to last corner for Casey Spady. Through the left-hander, into the right-hander, the number 20 ploughing his way through the puddles as he heads towards the final turn. Can Casey Spady hold on? Yes, he can. Powers down, and Ollie Sims is out of the race. Back end spun out, splashes through the puddles, out of the final corner. Casey Spady takes the race win. Ollie Sims, all he had to do was hold on to finish second. He's trying to restart the bike. Fingers crossed he can get back on to take a podium position, but as the rest of the riders come across the line, has he taken second? It looks like he will hold on for second. So Ollie Sims, lucky there was such a big gap between himself and Brandon Keane. So Brandon Keane actually came across the line 3 seconds in front of Ollie Sims, so he managed to hold on for a podium position. Harry Payne in 11th, and we're waiting for Luke Fitchett, who's had a great ride in the latter half of this race, to come from 10th up to 5th, Dan.
But that was a real pressure moment there for Ollie Sims. He nearly lost out on the podium completely. He was only a second and a half ahead of Harry Payne at the very end of that race. But Casey Spady, an absolute textbook ride. Fastest lap on that last lap. 1 minute 16.175 to set the fastest lap. 7 laps completed.